Everybody ready? All right. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Commission on the City Plan, December 19th. We have a meeting to order. I'm going to have a roll call, and so Ella is here. Okay, so Frank Manfredi is excused. I'm here. Dean Mason is here. James Porto, Ella is virtual, and Jason Porter is here. And I would like to seek Jason Porter as the replacement for Frank Manfredi. Right. Okay. Item 3 is approval of the minutes, and these are the minutes for November 2023. And I would like to ask if there is a motion to approve those.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Jason,
Yes.
is there a second?
This is Ella. I'll second.
Discussion? Oh, okay, then, are all in favor of that, accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, then, Ella, yeah. Okay, the next approval of minutes is for the special meeting site walk of December 12th, 2023. I'd like to, is there a motion to accept those?
Make a motion to accept the notice of the special meeting.
I'd like to second that motion. It's Jason.
Okay, any discussion? And I would like to state that during our site walk, there was no discussion about the content of this application, only directional or locational. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Communications, we don't need to discuss this here unless there's anyone.
I can quickly go over it.
Okay.
So this application is from Montville. It's a text amendment for them for their zoning text amendment for the child care statute. The city of Norwich has modified ours to make sure that child care is allowed by right in residential properties under a certain number of children. And Montville is amending their regulations to make sure they meet the state statutes.
Okay. No comments from the commission on that? No. Okay. Okay, under new business, official receipt of new CCP applications, no action required.
So we are just letting you know that we have some applications next month, and these are official receipt date is the next meeting of the commission, which is tonight. So they are not being heard. Obviously, we have a lot of business tonight, so they were not going to be on this agenda, but I think you know that next month we do have several applications.
Okay. But they're but the clock will be starting this.
The clock starts to, yeah.
Okay. Item number 6 is old business, and we have continued. Yeah, okay. Continued public hearing and potential action on the following application. Subdivision 437, and this is for 145 Tackle Road, 432 Canterbury Turnpike, and 180 Long Lane. Request for a proposed 12-lot subdivision with associated new road and dedicated open space. Property in the application of Norwich Community Development Corporation, assessors map 25, lot 1, map 24, block 1, lot 1, and map 23, lot 1, lot 7, general commercial district and plan development design district. And that was received on 10/17/2023. This is a continuation of the last public hearing, and I would like to just make one comment before we start accepting testimony. This is a continuance of a public hearing. Please keep your comments, to the subdivision and not to any future development. Try not to repeat your comments, and we did have a lot of comments at the last meeting, so we all are familiar with what concerns you have. Please be courteous. The commission is the authority to address compliance with the subdivision regulations only. We don't have anything to do with why this property is being developed. We are looking at, does it comply with the subdivision regulations? So I just wanted to make that comment for you to understand. I will let the applicant first give their presentation. After their presentation, I will ask the commission for comments or questions that they may have, and then we will open it to the public.
Okay, Madam Chairman, I just want to let you know, at the end of the public, there is a sign-in sheet on the back, edge over there, so, if you want to speak again, and you haven't spoke at the previous, it's a continuation of that public hearing, so if you spoke and you say the same thing, you don't have to, because it's still part of this open public hearing, but, sign in if you want to, and then, we'll call it in order.
Okay, and do you want to state something about the? Okay, and this is our attorney, he will be, Richard Roberts, and he will be explaining, we did receive a motion to intervene.
Yeah, we received, the commission received two notices of intervention under Connecticut General Statutes 22A19 from Mark Perkins of 81 Water Lane and Mayor Beckman of 210 Old Canterbury Turnpike, alleging that the proposed activities are unreasonably likely to cause significant adverse impact to the wetlands and water courses in a number of ways. Petitions do identify some alleged defects, and they seek to intervene in the proceeding, but it's my opinion that they have not been executed in compliance with the statute. And
all right, so would the applicant like to give a presentation? Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board and staff. In line with your opening comments, I'll be very brief. Kevin Brown from 66 Franklin, NCDC. I'm joined by Attorney Mark Block from Block Janey Sissel, Henry Resnicoff from RFP Associates, and Jeff Ford from Bowler Engineering. To the point, we took your requests from the last opening hearing. We have responded to your requested information to include the site walk on the 12th. And tonight, we simply want to read into the record where those responses and where this stands in terms of it being incorporated with the regulations. I'll be followed by Attorney Mark Block.
Good evening, Mark Block, Janey and Sicily, 138 Main Street in Norwich. I'm counsel to Norwich Community Development Corporation. I would like to have Mr. Board lead off, and I will follow with my comments thereafter.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jeff Ford, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Bowler Engineering. We're at 65 LaSalle Road in West Hartford, Connecticut. Just wanted to walk everybody through. We heard from the public last meeting. We heard from the commission. A lot of the big issues stem from stormwater management. It came up, was a recurring theme from the public, rightfully so. It's why they bring professional engineers in to perform these stormwater analyses. So basically what we do for the entire stretch of roadway is a pre-existing condition analysis that looks at all of the existing drainage watersheds, where they're going, what those flow rates are for various storm events. And then when we do our proposed design plans, we take into account those same areas and we develop a post condition. Now that post condition consists of several best management practices. We have swales with check dams. We have curbless gutters here, which gives us the ability to infiltrate through stone trenches. We have a permeable trail that also gets the addition of infiltration. And then in addition to that, we have several basins located, infiltration basins located throughout the entirety of the roadway. All of that has been reviewed by the city engineer. It was a rigorous process as we went back and forth through the original wetland approvals. So that's fully designed for the roadway. A lot of the concerns that we heard were relative to the lots themselves and with what's getting built and with what the stormwater is going to look like there in the future. Fortunately, part of this process is when one of these lots goes to get developed, so say lot 7, for instance, or lot 8, for instance, we have to go in and do that same pre-verse post analysis for each individual lot and prepare detailed design plans that meet the water quality manual and that meet the erosion sediment control guidelines. And that comes back before the city on an individual basis to go through each of these lots as they're designed and as they come forward. So in addition to that, there's an added measure that we have to go and get what's called a Connecticut DEP stormwater general permit when we go for the construction of this roadway. So there will be Department of Environmental Protection oversight throughout the construction. There will be ENS monitoring, and all of those will be consistent with the current guidelines. So that's to put everybody at ease. What's shown on here will be fully designed as far as these lots go. And as of now, the roadway has been completely designed and meets all state and city regulations. One other thing we wanted to get into the record, there was a letter from the State Historic Preservation Office that recommended we put a 50-foot easement around an existing cemetery that's located in the northwest corner of lot 3. Basically right up in that little corner, there's a little notch. The easement they're requesting is about 50 feet. And as you can see, the way that lot's configured with the wetlands, it's quite a distance more than that right now. One of the other things that we will be doing is providing the State Historic Preservation Office with the current map and getting an updated letter from them stating that they're good with the plan as designed, which we'll be putting on the record at City Hall. So with that, I can turn it over to Mark
I
Block.
just have a question.
Sure.
So that cemetery is on lot 3.
The cemetery is just off the property, so there's a little notch cut out in the top
I
corner.
see. Yep.
That, yeah, and that 50-foot easement, if you zoom in, see that little notch right there?
Okay.
So
Got
the
it.
50-foot easement would be on our site, off of it to the east and to the south. But the cemetery itself falls off the property.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. As stated earlier, Mark Flock, counsel to the Norwich Community Development Corporation. Before closing NCDC's presentation at this public hearing on the application for subdivision approval, I would like to address the commission on 2 matters. One is to confirm the jurisdiction of the CCP, which is briefly addressed by the chairperson. And because of the issues that have arisen concerning this subdivision, it is important that the CCP understand the limits of the powers to regulate the subdivision plans. And secondly, to review the waivers that we have requested and confirm that all requirements for granting of these waivers have been provided. I've provided suggested language to the commission for these waivers, and should the commission vote favorably, I have provided the form of a motion for approval of these waivers. In regards to CCP jurisdiction, NCDC has applied for what's been described as a 12-lot subdivision. There is a 13th lot, which is the dedicated open space. Subdivisions are regulated by the City of Norwich Subdivision Regulations, which is Article 2 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances. They are also governed by the Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-25, entitled Subdivisions of Land. The law in this area of subdivisions is very clear, and the cases decided by our appellate courts, superior courts, and Supreme Court have consistently held that when the Municipal Planning Commission considers the approval or disapproval of a subdivision, it's acting in an administrative capacity rather than a legislative capacity. Importantly, The planning commission acting in its administrative capacity has no discretion or choice but to approve a subdivision if it conforms to the regulations adopted by the city for guidance. Our appellate court has said that the planning commission acting in its administrative capacity has no discretion or choice but to approve a subdivision if it conforms to the regulations adopted for its guidance. Of equal importance, our Supreme Court has held that the designation of a particular use of property as permitted establishes a conclusive presumption that such use does not adversely affect the district and precludes further inquiry into such things as traffic, municipal services, property values, or general harmony of the district. Section 825, which is mirrored in the Norwich subdivision regulation, gives the commission specific grants and powers which then limit its jurisdiction. The subdivision regulations provide those limits as follows. Finding that the land is of such character as can be used for building purposes without impacting the public health or safety. That provision is made for water, sewer, and drainage for the subdivision. That proper provision is made for flood control measures if appropriate. That proposed streets are in harmony with the existing or proposed principal thoroughfares, especially in regards to harmonious and safe intersections between the proposed streets existing and the proposed principal thoroughfare. And that we provided for appropriate open space. The Municipal Planning Commission also cannot issue a conditional approval or put any other way or condition as part of its approval. A subdivision plan can only be approved, modified, or disapproved. Now, what does this mean for the subdivision plan that NCDC has proposed? As has been previously stated, if the subdivision plan meets zoning regulations, then the plan can't be denied. The commission can't impose lot sizes, building heights, buffers, and other site designs as long as the plan provisions meet minimum zoning requirements. In other words, the commission cannot dictate the size of a lot as long as the lot meets the minimum lot size in the district. The same holds for building heights. While CCP has no jurisdiction to regulate building heights, as long as the proposed building height does not exceed zoning requirements. NCDC is imposing its own restrictions in the recording of restrictions in the land records. This we are doing voluntarily and not mandated to do. In regard to traffic and off-site roads such as Canterbury Turnpike and Taffelockham Road, the statute does not give the CCP the authority to deny a subdivision application solely due to the condition of an existing nearby road. There's nothing authorizing a planning commission to require a developer, in this case NCDC, to improve an existing public roadway, except where the subdivision road intersects with the town road. Our courts have consistently held that the commission can't deny a subdivision application based upon off-site traffic concerns. The commission may require the new subdivision streets to be properly designed and to provide a safe intersection with intersecting town roads, but the subdivision cannot be denied because the town road may be inadequate or doesn't meet the same standards as the roadway in the subdivision. Review of the CCP is limited to internal traffic circulation in the subdivision only and the intersection of the subdivision with a town road. Again, as stated by our courts, off-site considerations may not therefore constitute the basis for denying a subdivision application, or as in this case, requiring off-site improvements where the use is permitted under existing zoning law. Since there is a conclusive presumption that the subdivision would not adversely affect the area because the town has already zoned the land for such use. The commission is prohibited from considering subdivision impacts on, as we said, traffic and municipal services and other issues. In regard to this presumption, I'd also like to correct some incorrect statements that have been made about the zoning of this property. There's been at least one statement in the record that the property was somehow rezoned without notice to the public. I was recently provided with some research on the zoning of this property, which confirmed that the property was zoned general commercial and industrial park as far back as 1974, 50 years ago. The industrial park zone was later replaced by the Planned Design Development District, and the general commercial area of the property was then expanded a bit to take part of what was previously the industrial park zone and incorporated in the general commercial zone. But what is important is that the property, although undeveloped since 1974, was designated by the city of Norwich as land, which was designated for commercial and industrial use. That's for 50 years. The review of this commission is to determine if the subdivision can be developed without endangering health and safety of persons. Proper provision has been made for water, drainage, and sewerage. The proposed streets are in harmony with existing streets, so as to provide safe intersections with such streets and provide adequate and convenient systems for traffic in the subdivision. And we have provided for parks or playgrounds. Finally, as part of our application, we requested 3 waivers. These waivers are for road width, and I believe we've been provided with a submission that we've made indicating what the waivers are. An exhibit of the satisfaction by these waivers of the statutory standards and a proposed motion. We've asked for a waiver of road width under 19-27.2 (1) under the regulations, a waiver regarding curbs and gutters per section 19.27.8, and a waiver of the requirement of sidewalks on 2 sides of the street per 19.27.2.9 (2). We believe that through the presentation that's been made by our engineer, drainage and other reports we filed, and the information contained in the subdivision plan, we've proven each of the following requirements to support a request for waiver. In regard to road width, first, the width of the road does not affect other land in the area, as the roads in the area are pre-existing, and there are no parcels of land which are subject to development on which roads are contemplated, and the waiver only pertains to the subdivision property. 2, an existing regulation for new road permit waivers under 19-27.2, which allows for waiver upon request from the Director of Public Works and depends on site conditions. In this case, we have a letter or memo from the Director of Public Works dated November 20th, 2023, which has approved of this waiver, stating that the proposed waiver is in keeping with current low impact development design standards. And 3, this waiver will not impact other property, since the proposed roadway in the subdivision only pertains to the subdivision property. In regards to curbs and gutters, this waiver concerns drainage, which will only affect the subject property, and the design stormwater management system on the property, as has been testified to and presented by Mr. Board. Section 19-27.2 requires curbs and gutters which have to do with street design, and which allows for waiver, and which the Public Works, again in the November 20th, 2023 memo, says that the waiver is in keeping with current low impact development design standards. And finally, on sidewalks, This only impacts the subject property, as no other property in the area is as large as this 384-acre tract, which is capable of the scope of development that we have, and which would have provision for walking trails, bike paths, and new sidewalks on both sides of the street. This is the only property in this area that has this particular circumstance. The proposal that we have made for this waiver is unique to this property. Secondly, the existing regulations for new roads and improvements permit waivers under section 19-27.2, which allow for a waiver upon receipt report from the Director of Public Works, depending on site conditions again. We have the presented November 20th, 2023 memo from the Director of Public Works, who has approved this waiver, stating that the proposed multi-use trail in lieu of the sidewalk is an accepted alternative to the required sidewalks on both sides of the street, and provides an added benefit of physical separation using guide rails to separate pedestrian and bicycle traffic from vehicular traffic. There's no impact to this sidewalk waiver on any other property. It is peculiar to this 384-acre 12-lot subdivision property. We believe that we meet all of the subdivision requirements, and that we request your approval of this application and approval of the waiver. I'd like to thank the commission and staff for your assistance and your time. And I believe that concludes our remarks this time.
Engineers not going to make any more comments regarding this application? I just have a quick question for you. Can you please show me where the zoning boundaries are for this property? Yeah, but I have this, I didn't see what zoning.
I think it should be 212, but
In the back.
for some reason.
Yeah, in the full set of plans it shows, and then one of the overlapping there as well. It's divided by Canterbury.
Yes, the zone lines are here. These are the PDD. These are the PDD. I'm gonna, can you follow up there? Here, that's parking lots here, and then across the street here, this is the PDD. And they're actually.
So this is general commercial. So this could be retail in that area. Oh,
I will call up with the public to see, what's this next? It's not.
I said, you pass it, you know. White.
It's C306.
Who's that?
Dan, you want to?
So this upper part is the planned development district. You see the dashed white line, and the lower part is the general commercial district.
and where does it say that here? Maybe I see it.
It's
Right here.
PDD plan development,
Okay,
it's
I see.
but it kind of comes off of this, you know, I mean, it's larger than what is within the parcel.
So can we get a zoning designation on the map so we can see what it looks like? Okay, so this is this side, so everything south
I'll
of,
show you, I'll walk you right here. So there's a white line that's right here.
yeah,
That's labeled general commercial. So it's basically everything east of Canterbury and everything west of Canterbury. There's a white line that's labeled on.
that's all I wanted to know.
Sure.
Does she have a question?
What was the agreed on road width again, please? I forgot that in the last meeting.
Oh,
Yes, there was two 11-foot wide travel lanes, 4-foot paved shoulders, 3-foot wide gravel strips, and then the 10-foot wide permeable multi-use trail on one side of the road. It's marked on the two.
Thank you.
so it'll be 30 feet away. Any other questions from the commission?
Also, the number of stories per building, that's just built into the zone.
Except for, except for.
Well, and I do have some more questions. Okay. The roundabout on Canterbury Turnpike. And you said that we can consider intersections of roads for subdivision. Okay, so the roundabout. My concern is that there will be, I don't want to see any extra traffic going onto Canterbury Turnpike
Nor do.
at all. So what have you done to prevent traffic going south onto Canterbury Turnpike?
Can I ask you a question, Madam Chairman? You have a series of questions for us?
I just have some questions. Yeah, I do have some. They're not in writing. I just have them down so I can ask when we're going through this.
And it would be preferable, since we've got a number of us here, if we could get the questions and then come back to you, perhaps take a recess for a few minutes, at least digest the question.
All right,
Provide
that's
it.
the first.
That would be helpful.
Okay, so that's my first question. I really don't want to see any truck traffic going on to Canterbury Turnpike at all. Okay, lot 9, you have as open space, right next to lot 9 is the open space area, which is mostly wetlands. I don't know if the commission saw that. I don't know if that's really an acceptable thing for me. I would like to see something that has less wetlands on it. And
Can I speak to that?
go ahead.
So that parcel right there, that was something that, previously was very, highly important to people when they talk about this piece of land, is that visual, wetland from, 395. And so when we talked about, when the applicants talked about open space for conservation easement, I said that was really an area that we wanted to protect. So, there is
it is wetlands, which means it's protected anyway.
but there's a dry area in front, and there's also it's a great habitat, and I think it would be a really wonderful, thing to preserve and also do some natural, walking trails.
Then maybe we can expand that, and maybe lot 9 can be the open space area. And then we won't have that problem of going across lot 9 and 15. So that's my one comment about open space. I just didn't think it was extensive enough to meet our regulations. I know we want to preserve that lot 13, but I think it needs to be a little bit more open land, right? Okay. Lot number 5. Where it abuts, I think there's 3 houses. Okay. What is the distance? And I know this is just proposed, but it is pretty limited because of the wetland. What is the distance of that building to the property, and what are the grades there? Okay, personally, I'd like to see some type of good berm with evergreens, probably white pine, red cedar, and some shorter evergreens in between.
In between,
In between the taller trees, they use their lower limbs, so you want
this again, you're talking about lot 5?
lot 5, where they're close, those houses, that is a 30,000 square foot house. Their lots are 30,000 square feet. And I know it's not, it's not what's proposed, it's really not. But it could be 30,000. I just think it's really too close to those houses. So if we could do a berm with some evergreens, and that would make me a little happy, and I'd like to see what it would look like. Okay. I really would like to see from Canterbury Turnpike, I would like it not to be the least visible as possible. Okay, the sidewalks. And I think that's fine that we only have it on one side, but I would like to see crosswalks at every driveway, so that people, if they want to go for a walk at lunchtime, they can do that. So those are my main concerns at this point in time. And I think you can address those. And especially, like I said, the Canterbury Turnpike, and I'm just one person on this committee, so I don't have the rest of the committee agrees.
Can the applicant have 5 minutes to convene with
Sure.
its staff, please?
Sure. I mean, do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you want to take a break, or do they want to take while you take time from the public, and just, it's up to you to decide?
Yeah, you can do that if you would like. What do you want to do?
I just had a question. What about the other commissioners? Any other commissioners? Questions?
We could write down the stipulations more clearly and address them after a recess maybe, or talk to the public during that recess.
We can't talk to the public during the recess, but if they wanted to, you know, have their small little meeting or whatever and continue on, it's up to you if you want to take a short recess.
Up to you.
I would like to take a short recess. I would make a motion, to take a short recess.
Okay, for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or
5
something.
minutes.
Okay, what time is it?
It's
7:40.
7:40.
7:40, we'll take this.
Thank you very much.
Pause, please.
Sure, that's fine.
Well, you know, this doesn't have to be, Ready? Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to reconvene this public hearing, and I will give the applicants time to respond.
Thank you.
Addressing first, the Canterbury Turnpike issue and the traffic issue. I think Mrs. Ward will address that. Except I'd just like to caveat that we are not conceding jurisdiction of the commission as to traffic on Canterbury Turnpike. We're limiting this to the safety of the intersection. Not limiting traffic to trucks or whatever on Canterbury Turnpike, which is outside the jurisdiction of the CCP. So with that limitation, Mr. Board will address the commission.
Good evening, Jeff Board. That would help. Jeff Board, for the record, Bowler Engineering. As Mark alluded to, that roundabout had been designed with public safety in mind. I know one of the big things we looked at was the geometric shapes of the curbing was from the truck circulation standpoint. From public safety standpoint, you do need to provide access onto Canterbury for a fire truck and emergency vehicles, which we had done. The curbs themselves and the splitter islands in between have been designed through trucks from going onto Canterbury. So it was in the geometric design of the roundabout that we tried to achieve that. With regards to the.
So we will deter trucks going onto Canterbury.
Correct. That is correct. And fire trucks will still be able to make those maneuvers. One of the other things is already on the plan. I know at the intersection themselves, we do have crosswalks. Once the final driveway locations for each of these individual lots are established, crosswalk will be provided on those as well. So that's a condition that we can comply with. And again, at the intersection, we already show them. And then regarding lot 5, Dan, if you could scroll up to lot 5. One of the things that have come up, and it's been a big point of concern from the residents along Canterbury in that location, what you're seeing there is about a 50-foot buffer, 2-story, 30,000 square foot building. We have looked at alternatives to that location. We are able to provide a 100-foot buffer at that location with a 20,000 square foot building that's 1 story. Basically pulling that building as far away from Canterbury as we can, reducing the square footage and then losing a story, which would be a 100-foot vegetated buffer in between the two that can then be supplemented with evergreens and bermed on the development side.
And would you show that on the plan now?
We don't have a.
No, not now.
Yeah, so we could show you roughly where that would be. So the building would be sitting basically back in this location here with the parking area up in here about 100 feet off the property line. And right now, that's about 50 to 60 feet off on the plan. So the parking lot would start back in this location, if you guys can't see, probably back right where my fingers are here. And then it would be tucked away more so in the rear of the lot, leaving this mature forested area. And then an area that we could berm up and then supplement the additional forest in between.
But now the wetlands is there, so moving it up, are you in the buffer area of the wetlands? Would you need to, well, I mean, you're gonna have to go to the wetlands no matter what.
Yep, we'll be back, once that does get designed, we'll have to do an entire drainage design and come
So-
back to the commission.
So as part of this subdivision, if you could show 100-foot buffer along that area with a berm and the evergreens.
Can I make a suggestion that we make it a condition of approval that we have agreed to make these changes and that these changes will be depicted on a final site development plan for this property, this particular lot?
I don't have a
Rather than,
I don't have a problem with that. But I want that condition on here and the details of the berm as well.
Sure.
perhaps what
And-
the board can do is can write up a narrative of that and we can submit it to the commission to be added as a condition of approval. That makes sense?
No, I think
Okay.
that, I'd like the attorney to chime in on this as well, but, I think that with all due respect, I think if you wanted to grant 100-foot buffer, you could there, or if all of the areas that needed to be shown for 50-foot buffers were shown, they are requirement to do that from the residential properties, they had to have a landscape buffer. It's in the regulations. It doesn't get to the point of what the details really are because there's no site development plan yet. So I think it's too, it's putting it on a subdivision, really, it's a site plan requirement.
Right, I understand that, but if we have on the subdivision that there will be a 100-foot buffer.
Yes.
That will have a berm, the height of the berm, just give us. a
So
little
it could be
detail.
language.
Yeah, just.
Madam Chair,
which-
we're in full agreement with
Okay,
what this
so
requires. It's just a matter of how it's taught in this.
I just clarify so that I'm giving you those so that,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
something to the effect that show a 100-foot buffer there with language that indicates the buffer is to be a berm with landscape plantings for future development or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that would be.
okay, so it could be text in that buffer strip. And what is that, if we were to describe that, how would I describe that on the map with that property boundary is? Dan, can you make it a little smaller or just trying to see what boundary line that will be? It's the,
Oh, the, with
Northwest.
The northwestern corner of lot 5.
okay, so. Thank
the
you.
budding.
Yeah, abutting Canterbury.
Canterbury Turn.
Okay, so the northwestern corner, lot 5, right? Okay,
Are you going to prepare that language? You need us to prepare that.
I can do that. I can do that with, prepare this right now, as I'm bringing things up.
Very good.
Thank you.
I think that Mr. Board addressed all of your questions except the open space issue. And our position on the open space issue, that would require an adjustment of lot lines and lot design, and that's not within the purview of this commission. So the issue that you raised on the amount of open space and lot, that's a strictly a site plan issue at the time. It's not an issue that you can have us address. We're entitled to provide for the design of the lots and their boundaries.
And where we can request open space where we want it. And how. That's just my opinion.
It doesn't, it requires us to provide for open space. It doesn't dictate where the commission can require.
Well, I'm not going to dictate where it goes, but I think it needs to be a little more extensive than this and a little more land area that is not wetland.
The regulations just leave it 5%.
It says up to, it can't be less than 5%. And I think the statutes go, I don't know, maybe the statutes say 10% maximum. No maximum?
I don't think 10%
I think-
is not considered taking.
Yeah, I mean, I find the regulations rather than.
That's more than, no less than 5. But I think the statute say up to 10%. That's, but I don't know, you know, remember offhand.
I believe the plan complies with the open space requirement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, then I am going to open this up to the general public. And first I have Charles Witt from Canterbury Turnpike.
Good evening, my name is Charlie Witt, I'm at 511 Canterbury Turnpike. I'd like to address the roundabout. We see the pictures on the map of the trucks coming up and not being able to turn. But what about the trucks that come from Appalachia, from Baltic Road, that are gonna come up Canterbury Turnpike? Bob's Furniture has a warehouse in Franklin. We watch the trucks come up Canterbury Turnpike all the time. Are they gonna be able to turn? Should they be allowed on that road at all? I mean, numerous trucks are gonna come that way. My other concern of the roundabout is, do we have an update on what 395 is gonna do? For the on-off ramp that's gonna alleviate a lot of the traffic? Or are we gonna be like Niantic, 20 years later, they do the study and do the project?
I'm gonna let the engineer address that, but not yet. Okay, so
Okay,
that's
that was my two concerns.
okay. I'm sorry. So can I ask you a question about your trucks? Yeah. So. Should I ask you? Okay, so, yeah, okay, so I would like to hear your answer to Mr. Witt's question.
Kevin Brown, 66 Franklin, CDC. I'll let Attorney Block redirect this conversation back to the point that there are certain things that are inbounds and out of bounds for the decision that's before this body. But
I think maybe if you can explain, because when we were out in the field, they explained how the traffic is going to get onto.
that's right.
Yeah,
That really is the point.
Yeah, so if you can explain that.
Right. You know, I have to editorialize for a second here that we are building an industrial park where truck drivers will be on task to arrive at their location at a particular time to pick up a load and depart and get to their next location in an era of GPS, which is going to guide them to where they have to go. The trucks that are currently moving about the neighborhood are not trucks that we can nor should be trying to control the movement of. That activity by discount anybody else that's outside of the bounds of what we're designing for. But what we are designing for is for those trucks that are going to go to those determined locations where those current hypothetical parcels sit. And the way they're going to get there, to the second part of the question, is through the I-395 exit 18 interchange, which feeds and connects, I'm going to go to the map in a second, which feeds and connects directly to the arterial road, thereby reducing any extraneous traffic that would come a different route up to Red McKeon Park or Brody's and come back down Canterbury Turnpike. There is little to no value for someone operating to go that way, because the way that we are designing this to bring the traffic in is through this interchange, which connects to the arterial road that we are here tonight to get the subdivision approval for, which feeds directly into the business park. And so if I'm a truck driver and I'm on a mission to go to parcel 11, we are designing an interchange that brings you onto this arterial road. It's named that way for a reason, the arterial road, to bring the traffic directly into the business park. As I've explained to some of the neighbors as we've had these face-to-face conversations, can I account for the driver who doesn't listen to his GPS, doesn't know how to navigate, and might errantly head off on Taffel-Ockham Road. No. But 99 times out of 100, they're going to come off of this, hit this signal, see the signage for the industrial park, and head into their destination in the industrial park using that interconnection and this arterial road.
Do we have like a flow up of that?
I don't think.
Just so he can.
Not with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we were on the sidewalk, we could see how it was gonna work. And that's why I think it's important for you to understand how they're gonna have some. Right in that area, they're gonna have a light. And they're gonna stop, and we'll be able to go into the road, so they won't have to access.
97.
Right.
They won't have access.
Right. Sorry. Okay, can you just explain that one more time?
So the interchange will be signalized right there where the cursor is now. And so traffic coming off of or heading back onto from the arterial road coming out of the industrial park or going into the industrial park will hit that signal and be directed, and therefore don't need to go to the right, is the point that I think we were collectively making. There's no need for them to go to the right and dump onto Route 97 in the first place to then become errant traffic. That signalized intersection, plus GPS, plus the mission of the truck drivers that are moving to and from, plus the signage will direct all traffic into the industrial.
All right. Well, the next person is Sue Jacobson.
Good evening, I'm Sue Jacobson, 256 Laurel Lane. I had the privilege to go on the sidewalk, and I was struck by the profound beauty that was there. I had forgotten how beautiful it was. My biggest concerns are right now are the runoffs, the water. My basement is still flooded. There's water bubbling up from Canterbury, from Laurel Lane, that on that hill, the water actually bubbles up. I have a well and I have a septic, and I'm concerned about it, as well as all of the pollutants that might be running off of the whatever they use in the industrial park. So that's my major concern. I do have concerns about the roundabout and the traffic coming off of 395 onto 97 onto Canterbury Turnpike before the access road. But I think that's probably my biggest concern. With the sidewalks, I really would like to see the sidewalks. They're putting in a new development on a subdivision on Hanson Road, I think it is. And it's beautiful. And they've got sidewalks on both sides of the street with little pieces of grass growing. It's really nice. My biggest concern is my basement, my well, my water, and the septic. And what if the pollutants are doing to the area, to the natural. So thank you.
Okay, Bob Croner of 89 Lawler Lane.
I'm Bob Groner of about 89 Lolo Lane. I still haven't heard anything addressed about, I see the arterial road going through, and then I see it coming out on Lolo Lane. Has that been addressed? Is that going to be just, can I ask a question? Oh,
Yeah, you can ask it through the chair.
okay. Has there been a revised proposal? I read in the paper that they had given up on the entrance on Lolo Lane. I read it on an online article. I don't know who wrote it or whether it was factual. I've also heard I heard from Mr. Brown last time I was here, that was gonna be just, the Lolo Lane exit was just gonna be for emergency vehicles, not open to trucks. Because if you're so worried about trucks on Canterbury, And you say you've solved the problem because the roundabout, I'm not sure, does the roundabout prevent trucks from going onto Canterbury Turnpike, or is this a sign that says that's the way you're supposed to go? Oh. Okay, so now, what's to prevent trucks from coming out onto Lower Lane and saying, well, I'm gonna go down Lower Lane, then I'm gonna get on Scotland Road, go down to K Street, and shoot down to the exit, the other entrance to the highway down.
Okay,
Has this been addressed? I'm asking you. Has anybody done anything about this Lawler Lane entrance, which is the elephant in the room? Because you see that arterial road we keep talking about. Now they're protecting everybody down along Canterbury Turnpike from traffic. But then you see that arterial road come out and end at Lawler Lane. Originally, there was supposed to be a cul-de-sac. Traffic would have to go back and exit via the roundabout. But now they have two options. Anybody working in the park also has the option of coming in on the back way through Lawler Lane. So are we gonna get a definitive answer on this, or are we gonna keep dancing around? Because all we've been doing is dancing around. I still see it there. I haven't seen any new proposals saying that will just be in writing, just for emergency vehicles. And you said,
I don't believe that's the case. It's not just for emergency vehicles, because they're gonna have to allow access to that lot 9.
well, that's the other thing.
But,
Lot 9,
okay,
you say you don't want trucks on Canterbury Turnpike. Well, lot 9, all those trucks are gonna go on back roads. They're gonna go on Lawler Lane, they're gonna go on Scotland Road, and they're gonna go down K Street.
okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the applicant address that issue. I'm not the.
Well, you said I had to ask you.
Right, yeah, you go through me and I'll let you answer the issue.
Okay.
Address that issue.
Oh, one other thing. They just put in city water on the whole Lower Lane neighborhood. And they just finished it this fall. They were hitting groundwater at 5 feet when they were putting in those pipes. So the area, there's a reason there's all those wetlands. There's a very shallow water table. If anything happens to raise that water table is going to flood everybody's basements. I know the argument here from our city attorney is that not my problem. We're not responsible for your basement. We're not responsible for your traffic. We don't care about your property values. So does the commission care? That's my question. Thank you.
Mr. Gruner, we actually answered your question last time, but you left the room already, so we will reiterate the answer to that question. The development plan for lot 9 across Lawler Lane is down the road, and we will not, if we can have sort of a reasonable discussion here, both the immediate development of lot 9 and the need to cross over Lawler Lane are a deferred conversation. And so in the meantime, in fact, there is a design for a cul-de-sac that is emergency access only. And Mr. Board, if there's anything else in terms of detail.
Okay, well, I see that I have nothing. You said it was not going to be just emergency.
No, Bob, I can clarify for you. So essentially, if you look at this.
It is.
So if you look at this in phases, so essentially from Route 97 over to Canterbury would technically be phase 1. As you develop, moving to the west, and you go over, this would be phase 2, and there'd be a temporary cul-de-sac here for a turnaround. As these lots get developed, there'd be a temporary cul-de-sac in the phase 3. So before lot 9 would be the last phase. Before that's built, there'd be a cul-de-sac right here with emergency access only. It's only when lot 9 would get developed in the future, whenever that may be, that emergency access gate would be open, and then the driveway would be installed directly across from Lawler Lane. So as all of these are being developed, 11 of the 12 lots, there will be an emergency gate here. It's not until that lot gets developed that goes in.
That's the follow-up question.
Okay,
Because I'm not understanding.
okay, just wait 1 second.
And Sue had some good points about the groundwater, the stormwater runoff. And part of what I was explaining earlier, specifically on the larger lots, there's a whole lot of requirements that we have to do, including that initial pre-existing model. So we do an analysis that shows what groundwater is out there today, what runoff is out there today based on existing conditions. So if you're having issues now, that's what's in our model now. So if there was a flow of 10 CFS, cubic feet per second, running off the surface right now, we have to match that or reduce it from existing conditions. So if, for instance, there was runoff heading into the backs of some of these homes, where am I here? Right in here. But in any of these homes, wherever that existing runoff is going, we cannot put any additional flow to that location. So it will not be any more than what's currently out there today. And in fact, on the water quality side, we have to provide a significant amount of water quality treatment to remove total suspended solids per the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual. All of which has to go back to the city engineer for review and back to the commission on an individual lot basis. So all that stormwater will be addressed.
That's one follow-up question.
Okay, if you would like to come up to the front.
When you guys vote on this, are you gonna have a final proposal in front of you that's gonna be transparent to the public before you vote?
This is what we have right here, these plans. And
Okay,
they
but
are
you
all
asked,
online.
you asked for some I got this, but you asked for some changes to the plans tonight.
Mhm.
Can we add incorporated into those plans that for now, that entrance on Lola Lane is just for emergency traffic? And it could be addressed at a later issue down the road as a separate. If they wanted to develop lot 11 and put a road across Lola Lane and another roundabout or wherever they plan to do. To me, if you put a road across from lot 11 into the park, it's just inviting trucks who are down this end of the park to get off there and head down to the highway the back way. But is there gonna be in writing, this might conflict, in writing, that this proposal right now, if you're voting on, calls for emergency entrance access only on Lola Lane? That's what Mr. Brown just said he was gonna do.
Until lot 9 is developed.
Then it becomes another issue that has to go before, again, about that road. About that crossing. If you're giving him the option of anytime he wants, taking the emergency exits out and putting a road across it because he's developing across the street, then we haven't solved anything.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that was a question. Is there going to be a final?
There will be a final plan with all of our conditions and modifications on it. That is correct.
That will be available to the public.
It will be available, it will be on, it will be in the Connecticut in the land records in the town clerk's office.
And as far as lot 9. You see the wetland area in the heavy crosshatch. I went down there after the Beavers built that dam a few years later, because I was curious to see how nature took over on a place like that. And I got one of those butterfly nets, and I went in and I scooped the water up, and it was teeming with frogs and polyps and salamanders. And I suspect there's fish in there too now, because the ducks land and the fish rates get into the water. So this isn't just like a little bit of soggy ground. This is a whole ecosystem.
Right. Okay, all right, Mark Perkins, please. We here, Mark Perkins? Yeah.
It's 81 Waller Lane. Good evening, thank you. I'm gonna start by saying that this is way more than a zoning application. So first of all, when I spent the time, I wrote these words a month ago, so I submitted this a month ago, but I'll go through it in about 3 minutes, okay? Just to begin, there was no attached narrative document to describe to the taxpayers what was going on for exactly. Business Park North is now dead, and this is now the Ockham Industrial Center. So it took me a few hours to go through the application to figure out what's going on. I mean, again, it's kind of a moot point because a month has gone by now, but it would have been nice to see a little more than a leak from the newspaper on November 18th on the day. And I would have liked to have seen more socialization about this, because again, this is basically Business Park North 2.0. This is not just a zoning application. I'm gonna skip point 2 because that's a big one. In the DEP letter attached to the application dated 11/28/2022, there is no mention of the bald eagle population located on the property. And although bald eagles were downgraded to a threatened species in Connecticut in 2010, the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act, enacted in 1940, prohibits anyone without a permit issued by the Secretary of the Interior from taking bald eagles or goldens, including their parts. It is a felony offense to do so, and therefore I request a formal follow-up with DEP by the applicant. I'm assuming it's going to have to be added to the application, to the education package and so on. Can we do that?
I don't think you want us engaging in the direct.
Okay, very good. I think we are the arterial road onto Laurel Lane. I think we're all set there. I'm going to skip over that. Under traffic control, page 21. The drawing submitted for the rotary to be located on Canterbury Turnpike. I'm not an engineer, but I feel it's incomplete at best because it doesn't contain a reasonable altitude specification. I drive that way to church every Sunday, and it's at the top of the hill, and there you are. You're coming down the hill, and there you are. So I wonder if the engineer might possibly tell us how they're going to put a rotary of that size at the top of a blind hill. Could we have Jeff say a few words about that?
Well, are you finished?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. And finally, as I did submit these documents, there's no language in any of the applications, any of the applicants submitted documents addressing buffer space or building heights or to protect abutting property owners. And this has been a chief argument from the concerned taxpayers all along with this. From what page 14 on the building sites here, in my opinion, and everybody in this room, we feel that buildings 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10 should have height restrictions and buffer zone provisions to protect the abutting property owners. This concern was raised with NCDC in writing with a list of the affected property owners and their personal contact information, and I don't see any of these provisions in the application whatsoever, and I've attached these same documents for review. Okay. So in conclusion, I said I would be brief. The city council, acting as the zoning board, already voted down the BPN overlay, which is essentially the same application, and they did so because it did not contain the protection and the details that I've already mentioned, and there was not adequate public outreach. With this was a zoning application. It came over a weekend, and next thing I know, we're at a commission to city plan meeting. Well played. I guess if I was going to put a application in, that's probably the way I would have done it. But, and also the plan does not contain assurances to the abutting property owners or area residents concerning building heights, buffer space, or the road relocation. These concerns have been raised on numerous occasions with the applicant, the city council, and the office of the mayor. Therefore, until all the aforementioned issues are resolved in writing, I recommend that you don't approve this application. Once approved, the Commission on the City Plan will become the authority on each of these 12 site plans when they come due, and there's no regulations in place to protect the taxpayer or for you to change building heights, locations, or buffers, as Attorney Block so thoughtfully pointed out. NCDC works for the taxpayer, and this is much more than zoning application. This is. It's a business park, it's a project. I would have expected to have seen this on all the city's websites. I would have expected to see a more forthright.
Can I interrupt you on this? And I understand your concern about this. But this is a subdivision application regarding creating 12 lots. And we have to look at, does it comply with our regulations or not? The process that NCDC and the town or the city council went through is irrelevant to our commission. And so if you have concerns about that, you should really go to the city council. But we are looking at concerns regarding the subdivision only. And they have the right to make an application. And we are required or mandated by our subdivision regulations to look at, does this comply with our subdivision regulations? Are the lot sizes compliant with our zoning regulations? So that's the only thing we can do. As each lot is developed, we can require more or less of the buffers. And you know, if it's depending upon if it's a special permit or special permit. If it's a special permit, we might even be able to look at the building height. If it's so that we will have, when each individual lot comes through, we will have some additional jurisdiction. This is just cutting the land into pieces. And you know, unfortunately, they have to show how it can be developed, and this is what they've shown. And but so I just wanted to explain that. I know that.
Yep. I actually was almost done, but thank you.
Okay.
No, not a problem. I'm on the last piece here. And what I was going to say is, quite frankly, I don't care for the applicant's attorney's posture. This is just a zoning application. We don't care if your basement's flood, that's not our problem. And this is not where we started with this project. I mean, I realized we didn't agree with everything you had to say, but it was civil. Now I don't think it's civil. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing that it's a zoning application and we're gonna put it through and we don't care. Well, I hope that's not how things end up, because that's not how we started this out. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we have Rainer Beckman, I'm sorry.
Brian Beckman, 210 Old Canterbury Turnpike. Like many of my neighbors, I'm deeply concerned over the ecological, environmental, the lack of wiping out of ecosystems. But I don't have to, I shouldn't have to explain any of that to you, because you guys are intelligent people. You know the value of open space. You know the value of the ecology. One of my big concerns is I'm going to live next to what I call what's going to be the truck rotisserie. There's nothing these people can say to me. I can't go meet with them. There's nothing they can do about that. I'm going to live next to a truck rotisserie. If this thing's successful at all, that thing's going to be going all night. I'm going to be hearing trucks all night. The way the highway is right now, it quiets down at night. I can get a good night's sleep. I can open my windows during the summer. It's not that bad. I feel like this is going to put me in absolute hell. I'm in the middle of trying to buy the house I'm living in right now. And I'm not sure how I'm going to stay there, or if I want to stay there. And to be honest with you, I kind of wish you guys could find me out. I don't want to be there. I'm totally frightened of what this is going to do to my life. And this is not even talking about the traffic. I'm just talking about that damn road's going to be going all night long. I'm screwed. They're not screwed. The rest of the town's not screwed. I'm screwed, and all my neighbors living close to the rotisserie, the truck rotisserie, we're going to have lights hitting our windows. We're going to have truck sounds. If you live next to anyone with one of those factories, you're going to hear beeping sound all night long. This is a neighborhood. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Frederick Browning.
permission to approach. I just have some paperwork I want to share with you guys.
I'll take that from you.
So, last hearing,
Oops.
I mean,
Sorry.
last hearing, we were kind of discussing a variety of things, and a very wise person named Beryl Fishbone brought up the whole idea of water. And she was discussing water basements, runoff, storm sewers and the like. And these are all very important issues, and this is within the range of the plan. So, preserving Norwich neighborhoods went out and retained an environmental engineer named Steve Trinkhouse. And Steve is actually with us tonight, at least he was a minute ago. And so he went over the report exhaustively, meaning all 25 or 26 documents posted. And so rather go through the entire thing, I would just point at some of his executive summaries. He talked a lot about the proposal of the stormwater basins not being designed in accordance with Connecticut DEP 2004 stormwater quality manual. He discussed the whole issue of whether the stormwater management plan would actually reduce, he doesn't think so, non-point source pollutants generated by the proposed industrial roadway. He felt that the use of a narrow grass swale and permeable pavement are not appropriate to the site and would not function as intended. He also felt that the stormwater management plan does not comply with Connecticut DEP 2004 stormwater quality manual as the water quality volume and groundwater discharge requirements are not being achieved. He also felt that the erosion control plan does not comply with Connecticut DEP 2002 guidelines, and that the submitted plans are missing a lot of information which prevents a land use commission from fully evaluating the design of the project. Now, about back around 2005, the same commission refused a major development of 155 unit housing units between Scotland Road and Hanson Road. And the reason for the denial of that application was water, sewer water, wastewater, gray water. And when it was shown during a hearing by an out-of-district engineer that in fact, the firm designing that private development was in fact claiming a storm drain with pipe water uphill, the commission, probably none of you here, but the commission then rejected the development. And what they did was they downsized it from 155 units between Scotland and Hanson Road, and they dropped it down to 12 to 14 building lots, where today it is being developed. The builders still need money, so I think everything worked out, but the amount of water at play is tremendous. And I will just sort of close with this before I ask you to talk to Steve Trinkhouse, since he's the expert, not me. Just where number 8 is, if you look up at the map. So 2 days ago, we took over 4 inches of rainwater. And this area right here, from here to this area around here to White Plains Road, that's about 15 acres of drainage. And what you got was a massive storm surge, which went out over Scotland Road. 15 acres was draining, and literally it was draining onto a environmentally protected 400-acre lot. And a lot of the water surged out onto Scotland Road, and a culvert designed by the city of Norwich basically failed. It was probably plugged up. It was about 2 feet by 2 feet under Scotland Road, and it just, couldn't handle it. Okay, so the water ripped down Scotland Road, went about 500 more yards down, and went at high velocity into another farm field. That's the consequence of bad engineering. And I'm not blaming anybody here for that because you guys didn't engineer it. I'm just saying that that was what I was the idiot who went out there with a rake and tried to pull up the culvert, and I couldn't even find it. So I'll be called city public services, which I don't blame. But I want to get back to the point that, when you're looking at things like, were these basins, runoff basins, correctly designed? were test borings made? What type of soil do they have? How will it drain? These are all critical issues because all I know is that industrial parks have a lot of pavement, a lot of hard surfaces, and you get increased water velocity. You don't get decreased water velocity. And I'm just saying, as one resident, I could watch Surf's Up ripping down Scotland Road, and that's in an environmentally pristine area. I know we have 15 acres of swamp there to absorb, and the swamp failed. But I could just imagine that what would happen if you had a major asphalt area right along that. So I would ask you folks to consider Mr. Trinkus's please just talk to him. He's present. He could answer any questions you have. But this is, this is serious stuff, and we went out and we got a serious environmental consultant, an engineer. Last thing, I just want to apologize. I left his CV off your table. I will just go up and approach the attorney and just give him his resume, so I'm not just, I didn't just pull somebody, just as my college frat buddy to testify. So once again, I would appreciate if you guys let him talk about the report he filed.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, you
Yes.
can.
Okay.
Hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Yes, for the record, my name is Stephen Trinkus. I'm a consulting engineer with an office in Southbury, Connecticut. I've been licensed as a PE since 1988. I've been in the land development field, even during college, working part-time for over 40 years. I also have a lot of expert in low impact development, which is a focus on water quality and runoff volumes. I'd like to address a couple comments I heard earlier. First off, an industrial subdivision is quite honestly, from a planning perspective, no different than a residential subdivision. You're creating lots that meet zoning. However, residential subdivisions, you're seeing the topography of the proposed lots. You're not seeing any topography on these proposed industrial lots. So there's no information as to, substantial cuts and fills to create these buildings and parking areas, because that goes right to the heart of determining whether a lot is suitable for development. So you have none of that information, and that clearly is under your jurisdiction. Additionally, again, from an open space perspective, and I've worked in many towns from Western Connecticut all the way out to Killingly, and in between, that open space is the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. You get to determine if an applicant is proposing a parcel, whether it is appropriate open space and something the town wants. You can also ask the open space to be modified to be a valuable open space. Regarding roadways, they also come into play, and based on my experience, for compliance with the City of Norwich road regulations. So they clearly are also part of the subdivision process. One of the comments I had on the roundabout, which we've heard a lot of discussion about, is if most roundabouts are used on smaller roadways where there was an existing four-way stop, because a roundabout facilitates a smoother movement of vehicles versus a four-way stop. Now, roundabouts typically are a raised island of some type, whether they're completely landscaped or they're built up with a curb and brick surfaces or stamped concrete. But one of the things we don't have for this application at all is a vehicle turning movement. Can these tractor trailer trucks go around that roundabout without running over a portion of the roundabout? I would submit, based on, again, my experience, I don't think they can. So I think you've got a serious traffic issue with the design of the road, where quite honestly, it's not a safe design as proposed. I've given you, my report is several pages long. I want to hit the high points. We heard the applicant talk earlier that, we're going to do a paved multi-use trail, a grass swale. We're going to have infiltration basins. Well, Whitestone Associates, a geotechnical engineer, did a bunch of borings along the road. And virtually every one of those borings called out glacial till anywhere between 12 and maybe 40 or 50 inches below grade. Glacial till is an extremely compact soil layer. which is restrictive to the downward movement of water. If you have glacial till on this site, these basins are not going to infiltrate. All of these basins are located anywhere between 2.5 and 16 feet below the existing grade, which means they're going to be smack into the glacial till and no infiltration is going to occur. Also, you have to have soil test pits for each and every one of these basins, both deep test holes and infiltration tests per the Connecticut 2004 DEP manual. So contrary to the applicant's assertion, these basins are not in compliance with the DEP manual at all. Additionally, infiltration basins are not recommended for industrial sites. Industrial sites have a higher pollutant load, and this is clearly elaborated in the 2004 manual. If you do allow infiltration where you have suitable soils, you must have a high degree of pre-treatment of the runoff, particularly to not only reduce total suspended solids, but metals and hydrocarbons before you introduce those pollutants into a shallow groundwater table. And none of these proposed basins have a forebay at all. And again, if they're not going to infiltrate, it's a problem right off the bat. And if they don't infiltrate, you've got several other problems. First off, you are going to have increased pollutant loads being discharged to the downgradient wetlands and watercourses. You're also not going to have any reduction in runoff volume. Runoff volume is the driver of flooding. It's not the rate of runoff, it's how much water. And when you have large directly connected impervious areas such as this roadway and all of the potential lots, you are going to have a lot more volume if you are not infiltrating it, which has not been demonstrated will occur. Regarding the grass swale along the road, while the DEP manual allows a minimum bottom width of 2 feet, that is roughly what the applicant is proposing, it does not provide water quality benefits. To get water quality benefits in a grass swale, you should be 4 to 8 foot as a bottom width. A very broad, shallow swale provides a greater water quality benefit. Additionally, they're proposing check dams because these swales have a slope to them. Well, a stone check dam is basically a very permeable structure. Water, while it may temporarily pond behind it, it's not going to pond very long behind a stone check dam. The applicant is relying on water ponding behind the check dams to meet the water quality volume. And that's inappropriate because the water quality volume per the DEP manual must be captured and treated. That's the language that is used in the manual. So you have to capture it and prove that it's being treated. Simply providing the volume required for the water quality volume does not meet the requirement. You have to demonstrate that it is being treated, and that is not being done on this site. Additionally, the multi-use trail with permeable pavement, again, per the DEP manual, is to be used in class A or B soils. Those are sand and gravel soils or very sandy loam soils because it's an infiltration practice. As proposed, the applicant's proposal is simply permeable asphalt on several layers of crushed stone. Crushed stone does not provide water quality treatment. It does provide some storage volume, but again, this system has not been shown that it will actually infiltrate water into the ground or provide any water quality treatment. When we see things like this, a very narrow swale, we see a permeable pavement and an inappropriate soil, the terminology we use in the low impact development world is it's called greenwashing. It's adding stuff to a site plan that looks green, but is truly not green because it will not function as intended. And that is what is being proposed here. There is a lot of missing information on the plan. Several of the stormwater basins have no proposed contours shown at all. There's a label showing what the top of it and the top of the berm is and what the bottom is, but there's absolutely no grading shown. And again, there's no soil stockpile shown for the road, and hence that's one of the major things that it's not in compliance with the DEP 2002 guidelines. There's also no phasing plan. We did hear from the applicant that the proposed sale of the lots and build out of the lots will start from the areas of 1, 2, 3, go to the middle, and ultimately go to the other end. I will submit, and similar to a residential subdivision, end users are going to determine what order these lots get developed. And if you have a large industrial user who wants, lot number 7 as an example, right after the road's been built, you know what, the developer is going to sell him lot 7, and that lot will get developed before any of the other lots. That's the reality, because this is a market-driven project, and the market for the end users is going to determine which lots are developed. There is absolutely no guarantee that those initial lots with the smaller buildings are going to be developed, right in the beginning, as far as that goes. Again, the DEP manual requires testing, both deep test holes and double ring infiltration tests for these basins. None of that has been done. In addition, there's been no assessment of the pollutant loads that will be created by the road itself and how well the treatment systems will actually reduce those pollutant loads. And while the DEP manual has a goal of 80% reduction of total suspended solids, this manual was initially developed in 2002 and became the published guidance document back in 2004. At that time, in the stormwater world, it was assumed that all these other pollutants, nitrogen, phosphorus, metals, hydrocarbons, would attach to sediment particles. Thus, if you trapped sediment, you got all of these other pollutants. However, in the intervening, almost 20 years, a lot of research has been done at Villanova University, North Carolina State, Maryland, Washington State University, as well as the New Hampshire Stormwater Center up in Durham. And what it has found is that's not a true statement. These pollutants, some of them do attach to fine sediment particles, some don't. So you need to assess all of the pollutant loads. And for an industrial site, the primary pollutant loads are total suspended solids, metals, and hydrocarbons, because metals and hydrocarbons can be toxic to aquatic organisms at relatively low concentrations. And as you're going to have pretty much industrial traffic, i.e. trucks going in and out of here over time, there are going to be a lot of pollutants. A lot of the metals come from our tires and our brake systems, which trucks have just like cars. So the bottom line here is that, the stormwater management system is completely inadequate for this particular site, is not designed in accordance with the DEP manual in any shape or form, and will not function as intended. It is just completely inappropriate. There's no documentation to support that will actually function in the real world. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. We have a lot of information here. Harold French.
You want to take a break?
Not really.
Well, push it.
I want Harold French.
Thank you for this opportunity. Harold French, 85 White Plains Road. I oppose this, and I believe with the stack here, this team here, gave you the reason to reject the plan because it is not in harmony with the area. That is irrefutable. When you walk this area, you know that this is not an industrial park. It is open space. A more reasonable development program might be for residential or something similar to that. I'm not here to find fault. I seek a solution. I seek compromise. But this entire process has been deeply concerning, and I'll echo some of the things that Mr. Perkins and Mr. Brown said and others have said. Something like this, you're going to do this to us, come right out, and this is what we're going to do. I know that you review all your administrative requirements, you read things into the records, you have your experts step forward and speak to this, but no one in Norwich in the stack, no elected or appointed official said, hey, time out, there's a beef here. There's some legitimate grievances. Let's take some time back and let's figure this out. For example, I would be more understanding of this, that nothing went west of Wallow Lane. Not just the wetlands, but no development west of Wallow Lane. That's, to me, is unreasonable. For example, like putting a house or putting anything up behind Chase's house off of Canterbury Turnpike, it's not proportionate, it's not like buildings. That's a reasonable standard. You look at vibrant communities, they have that as a standard. So I think we could all come to some sense of compromise if we had all this out in the open.
But again, we're always like digging through different things, and so you know that this is a source of contention. Well, I'm not anti-development, I'm pro-community. I would like to see it succeed, I would like to see us move forward, I'd like to see a positive shift. Now, this is gonna sound funny, I actually agree with Mrs. Brown. No, it's not gonna be all doom and chaos and destruction. But it's not gonna be all popcorn and sunshine. I mean, there are gonna be some issues, and yes, whenever you have something like this, any development, there's a quantifiable and qualifiable impact on that. There are gonna be issues with the traffic. It is gonna impact the on and off ramps, Route 97, all the way around the area. We all know that, because we've all been stuck on that exit, trying to get turned on to Paparocken Road. You've all been stuck on Route 32 at the Norwich Franklin line. Everybody gets sent up there, it backs up onto the highway. That is one of the consequences of development. And we need to think about that. That's why I would ask you to reject it, because we haven't really worked a lot of this stuff out. I realize what your domain is and what your lane is, but I think we presented reasonable issues as far as this whole process. I'll give you, you have no one in, Monto comments though, like anyone in this stack or this group? Okay.
Please address the chair.
Yep, Monto comments, anyone connected to that development? Okay, happened many years ago. They did all this stuff. And we all recall what happened to Durham Lane, when they had a landslide and it crushed out the houses and some of the wells. All right, that's a quantifiable result. And they had done all this stuff, but there is something that's gonna happen. Now, Mr. Brown, you had talked about the water in our area. Many years ago, we gathered and said, hey, this condo development is not proportional to the area. We asked for a more reasonable development. We came to an agreement. They put houses in there. It's a nice neighborhood. It looks good. My wife and I have lived on White Plains Road for 20 years. Twice this year, the road's been washed out. And when I mean washed out, that the pavement has collapsed down the embankment into the stream. Because now, because of the development behind us, the water is now, it's increased significantly. That's what happens. Now, in all fairness to Norwich, and to engineers, the culvert under our road is from the 1800s, so I understand that that's not able to handle certain things. But I would just ask you to consider what is proportional, what is in harmony with our area, and this is definitely not in harmony. I've lived and played all over the planet. I wish you all the best on this. We want to see a positive shift. We want to see things move forward. But I don't think that this is vitality, and I don't think it'll have the return from Norwich that we think some people think it will. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come and speak in favor of this speak on this application? Please state your name for the record, name and address, and spelling, please.
Marilyn Jester, 487 Canterbury Turnpike. And I have a grave in my backyard. It's from the 1800s. Everybody that's been by has looked at it. My concern is that you said something about berms around these graves. Am I right about that?
No, it was just a buffer.
A buffer.
A 50-foot buffer, which means they're not going to touch anything within 50 feet of the cemetery.
Okay, they're not gonna put a fence around, right?
No.
Okay, perfect. The last thing I have is, Chase, we all know Chase.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Excuse me?
You can speak into the microphone because people can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. Chase is a neighbor that we all know. And when you talk about moving the, parking garage back, I believe you said, from Chase's house, so to the west, did you say that? Yeah, well, when you move Chase's house back, then now you're closer to me. So now I can see all the stuff. You know, every action has a reaction. Every time you move something, something else happens. Now I'm close, you know, and I don't think anybody's taking that into consideration. And that's all I have.
Can you show where your property is approximately on that map? Yeah.
Canterbury Turnpike. Yes, right there is the graves, right in that niche. And this is the coffee property. You know, the coffees coffee. Yeah, this is all the coffee property. So they can't do anything over here. So now everything starts here from my property and goes down. And really, when you count, there's only 5 houses involved on Canterbury Turnpike that have all this going behind them. It's affecting all these other people, but there's only 5 of us. I mean, my God, can't you do something for just 5 houses? I mean, I know everybody else does, but it's just a
Okay.
question.
Yeah. We're listening.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone online that would like to speak? Okay.
Do you want to unmute themselves down? No.
They can do it if they want.
Oh, there's another. Hey, no. State your name and your address and spell your name.
Holly Watson, 507 Canterbury Turnpike. So I couldn't make the walk. I was at work, but my dad did. He is a retired civil engineer who used to design roads. So him and I were talking about the roundabout. He said to me, and I agreed with him, there's no way you can put a roundabout on top of that hill. For one, I drive up that hill because since I live there, I drive between 4 o'clock in the morning and to the time I get home about 1:32. You can't see, when you start coming up that hill, you won't be able to see that roundabout at all. You can't see the overpass. You can't see anything. You get up, you start climbing up that hill, you still can't see anything. By the time you get up to the top of the hill, guess what? Too late. The truck's in, you just got an accident with that roundabout. You cannot see at all going up that hill. And with the ice, and right now, we've already got, the water is starting to come down, and now we're in winter, it's always ice right up at that hill. And you slide on that hill, you can't get up that hill very well. And when you come down, you slide down that hill in the winter. Now, if you put that roundabout, you definitely, when you're trying to get up that hill, now you're gonna, like I said, you can't stop on that hill or you're gonna slide backwards. So you have to keep going. So when you get the roundabout, you can't stop or you're gonna slide backwards on the ice. And the snowplows are not always out there right away. So you gotta keep going. So now when you get up to the top, now you can't stop. You got those trucks. Now boom, again, like I said, we got another accident. And that's what I'm really afraid about.
Thank you. You had brought that up the last meeting.
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Edie Piscatelli from 44 Wales Road. I have a question. What is the gradation of the exit road coming out of the industrial park?
Okay.
Coming towards Water Lake? Is it a hill going down?
All right, first you have to address me and then.
Oh,
I'll ask.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'm questioning what the gradation is for the road coming out of the roundabout. And may I approach the map for a moment?
Yeah.
Okay. This building sits next to the beaver pond, which is way bigger than what's described here. And so the beaver pond floods through both roads. And I'm wondering, when this runoff comes from this road, is it going to be heading into this direction, my backyard? Because I'm 985 steps from my house to Lawler Lane. That's a 7-inch foot. So I'm curious because I have water table where we built over 30 years that is always full. There's always underground water. And I have a well that I rely on for the water, and I'm worried about what might end up in the water. And if it's going to make my well in my basement flood even more. So I want to know, I know you guys talked about basins and all that, but I want to know what the gradation is. Is it a downhill or the flat? Is it going to be running off towards Lawler Lane or no?
I will let the engineer address that, but first, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
State your name again.
Oh,
and
sorry, I thought I did that.
Yeah, you did.
Edie Piscatelli, 44 Wales Road.
Can you spell your last name?
Piscatelli.
Your first, are you saying Eva?
Oh, Edie.
Thank you. Because, can you say Piscatella again? This is our clerk. She needs to get his spelling. Your name spelled, please get your last.
Ediepiscateli, 44 Wales Road.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So essentially, that the groundwater you're talking about is bisected by Lawler Lane. So when you're looking at the surveys that we provided, this water's coming in this direction down to here. This water's heading in this direction, and then there's a ridge that heads back this way. So to answer your question about water getting over here,
So there's
no water's from, no water's coming from here.
Into here.
Correct. Any of these
Okay.
developments are going to be self-contained. In the future, these lots are going to be designed with their own stormwater management for each of those, and they'll be fully contained on site. And then everything else makes their way to these wetland bodies over in this location at a reduced rate to what's there now.
And this area here for your lot 9, which is all pretty much wetlands all through here, which is totally soaked with a heavy rain.
Mhm.
You guys have got approval to dig all that up, and it's not
No.
supposedly going to.
We have no approvals as of yet. So again, we're gonna be, if lot 9 goes to construction and they get an end user, we would be approached to design that site plan, and we would have to go out, do the geotechnical testing that Mr. Trinkus referred to earlier in any basin locations we're looking to do, and then fully design a plan that's consistent with the water quality manual. And that would have to get presented to the city at that time.
Okay, and at that time, are we allowed to voice our concerns and that you would take into consideration or no?
Right, if it is, if it's a site plan, you can certainly review the plan and you can provide written comments. If it's a special exception or a special comment, it will be a public hearing similar to this.
Okay, and I have one final question. I know that you're getting the approval for the 12 lots. My question to you guys would be, are you planning on like basically clearing the land on all 12 lots all at once? Or are you doing it site by site?
Right. If you want to answer that, go ahead, please.
So you're not going to.
It's site by site, and it's even a stretch to say that we're gonna clear it, because in some cases it's already cleared, in other cases it might not require, but it's a site by site.
All right, thank you.
Right, are there any other questions or comments from the public? I
just wanted, and sorry. This will be really quick.
And just make sure you state your name for the record again.
Yeah, Frederick Browning, 671 Scotland Road. At the start of the meeting or start of public comments, the attorney argued or said that the notice of intervention, he was disregarding the verified notice of intervention in terms of environmental impact. All I heard the engineer, Mr. Trinkus, talk about was environmental impact. So regardless of your decision, I am giving you 3 more waivers. Okay, you may choose to do what you want with them, but just saying that I think that the environmental review that you received from our engineer tonight, I think proved negative environmental impact and also potential pollution problems. So I'm giving these forms to you. My apologies. I had them on my stack of papers and didn't do that earlier. Thank you so much.
Additional interveners, I don't know if the same reasons are stated.
Okay, are there any other public comments?
Sign it all.
They're not signed, okay?
And then these 2 are.
These are. So you're saying that they are not, valid, okay, thank you.
Okay, can I ask a few questions based on that today? Anyone from the commission have any questions first, and then. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of information. So there was not a phasing plan. Okay, submitted. Was there? I don't see it in here.
You want to answer that question?
Through this because the white lines actually are hard to read on a PDF screen here. But basically, as we described, in red, we're showing those temporary cul-de-sacs at strategic locations, depending on the phasing of the road. So in white right here was the phase one from Route 97 over to this location here. That red that Dan's highlighting would be a temporary cul-de-sac for a turnaround for the first phase of the development. The second phase would be in this location here for 12, 6, 11, and 7 with a temporary cul-de-sac here. Similarly, 8 and 10, there'd be a cul-de-sac at the end, which I referred to earlier with the gate and the lock on it for emergency access only. And then the last phase 4 being just the lot 9, whenever that does get built, that temporary cul-de-sac would be removed and the connection would be made to lot 1.
So is that part of this plan that we have
You have a plan for the full build out of the roadway that's been fully engineered.
without any
From-
phasing?
Correct.
Should that be part of our?
This is now going to be part of the record because he's presenting it. So what is the sheet number on this? I can't see that. What is it called?
EX 300, and then it was overall subdivision plan.
And EX 300 though is, I thought it is in the plan. Set, it's not right now.
I don't believe we had included this. I think this was done for one of the hearings.
Okay, thank you.
I can't recall if we showed it last time or not.
I don't think so, but I didn't know it was there. I didn't see it. I know we have 300 numbers.
So it's included.
What?
By virtue of this, it's included.
Yeah, EX 300. What is the title? I'm sorry, I don't know what it is.
Overall subdivision.
Just very awesome, but it shows the phasing. The phasing. Thank you.
And would you like to address any of the other questions? Comments?
So the stormwater drainage piece that Mr. Trinkus brought up, it's interesting in the sense that currently we do comply with the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual. What's going to happen here, and we've spoke to this quite a bit, that as each individual lot is developed, we're going to have to revisit all of the drainage for the roadway. The reason why the roadway drainage is shown now was to show potential build out to get our wetlands approvals. But for example, when you develop lot 7, lot 11, any of these larger lots, any of the drainage systems we have adjacent to that roadway are going to be looked at holistically with the actual development, and any modifications made will be presented to the commission and fully designed at that time. Now, at that time, each of these go into design, that will include, because to Mr. Trinkus's point, you are to have geotechnical testing in multiple locations for each basin. So regardless of what we're modifying, whether it's along the roadway or if it's in the site with underground detention that's tying into that roadway network, ultimately into the wetlands, all of that's going to have to be fully designed and compliant with the water quality manual, which will be presented to the city engineer.
And you have the whole,
Yep, yeah, and we had submitted part of that and back and forth. We went to the city engineer. He's fully reviewed the plans as well. And that got approved as part of the inland wetlands application. And again, subject to change based on the individual use, but that comes back to the city for review.
all right. Okay, does anybody else have any comments, All right, Commissioner, you want to discuss this before?
Staff comments.
Okay, staff comments.
But do you want to ask the comments first?
Yeah.
Lead staff.
Okay, do you have?
I just have an additional comment I'd
Okay.
like to make. Two comments. Number one, I'd like to dispel any conception that any members of the public may have, that we are not concerned with the effect on the surrounding areas. What we have is a plan of division of the land only. This is not a site development plan for any one of the lots. It doesn't deal with any future building heights, buffers, those types of site development issues. So we can certainly take into consideration the public comment as the lots are developed. This is just a plan to divide the lots and to plan out for the future arterial roadway. Secondly, concerning Mr. Trinkhouse's report, I would like to object to its admission. This is dated December 15th, 2023. It was not submitted to us in advance to look at and review. Its late submission. To expect us to respond to this is absolutely outrageous. We believe that, I think to the extent we can, Mr. Board has addressed most of it. They're mostly site development issues. His statements are conclusory without any independent testing. We have wetlands approval. We've been to Public Works. This commission has reviewed these plans, and I just refer the commission to the scope of its review, which does not take into consideration many or most of Mr. Trinkhouse's points. The commission review shall be based upon the final plan, taking into consideration, this is section 3.1 of 1927, particular attention shall be given to the arrangement, location, width of streets, relation to topography, water supply, sewage disposal, surface drainage, lot sizes, and future development of any adjoining lands. There's been no comment from staff to us or by any department that any portion of this subdivision plan does not meet your regulations. We've addressed all staff comments. We've agreed to accept all staff comments, which may be made a part and condition of the approval. But this report deals with matters that are outside of the subdivision, for the most part, regulations. And we think the late submission of this to us, when the closing of the public hearing must occur immediately or within the next few days, it's just not a matter that we think that the commission should take into consideration.
Mr. Trinkhouse address that.
Madam Chair, I would like to just respond. First,
Okay. Do you,
This
hold on
is-
one second. One moment, please. Do you want to let the public still comment during this part?
I think the commission needs to talk about things, and we understand your comments. We have your comments. We've heard his comments. I want to hear the staff's comments next, and then we'll talk about it ourselves after that, okay, before we decide to close the hearing.
So did you want to hear from this rebuttal from this other engineer?
At this point in time, I would like to hear your comments.
Okay, so firstly, we have our attorney Richard Roberts here to speak to the staff about things. And one of and Richard, you can chime in as well if you don't think I'm correct in what I'm saying, is when you have two experts that have the same qualifications, and it looks like Mr. Trinkus is a PE. We also have Jeff Ford is a PE. Our city engineer is a PE. They all have the same qualifications. So what that means is the commission then has to decide who they want to take their their testimony from, who they feel is more appropriate as far as, do you want to explain this a little bit?
No, I agree. I mean, if there had been only one professional expert providing testimony on most things, you would kind of be bound to believe what they said. But here you have kind of competing experts with different opinions. So it's up to the commission to evaluate, within the confines of what information you have and what time you have to look at it.
I will say that though, the commission, that we also, the city is an engineer, is a PE, and he also reviewed what was submitted. So you need to, take that into consideration, I believe, as well. There is some time considerations, and I want to talk about that. So the public hearing was opened last month. We are now at the deadline of closing the public hearing unless we give some specific dates for everyone on the commission. So the public hearing was opened on 11/21, and 35 days to close that public hearing, which is December 26th, which is next Tuesday. Our next meeting is until the end of January. So the applicant, at this point, you're required by statute to close the public hearing within 35 days, unless the applicant decides to grant you additional time. Statutorily, there's an additional 65 days kind of sitting out here that the applicant can grant to the commission to use any time during the process, either at the beginning to open the public hearing, if we've already opened it, so we didn't need that, to keep the public hearing open, or to extend the decision time, you have 65 days to make a decision after a public hearing is closed, but no additional testimony can be taken during that time. No other considerations can be made. So most commissions don't close a public hearing and just wait 65 days just to ponder it in their heads for 65 days. They can make a decision. So at this point, you really have to be able to put them down tonight unless the applicant's team was willing to grant additional time. So if you so choose for the New York City engineer to look at these comments and respond back, or but because the time frame is so short, if the applicant said no to, we don't want to, use it, we'd like the public hearing closed. The commission only has to close the public hearing by December 26th, and today is already the 19th, and we need at least a day's notice for a special meeting to be published. So now we're talking at the end of this week for like Tuesday, and it just doesn't work. So so the commission, Chairman, if you wanted to ask that request, do so, and they would have to concede to that. Otherwise, public hearing does need to get closed tonight. We do have an exhibit list, Dan, if you just want to bring that up. These are all the documentation that the city has received. Before the meeting tonight, there is 51 exhibits in this file. And all the way up to my last review memo today, we've also added into the exhibit list for you to know. Mark Perkins intervenor request, so just gonna call those. It's number 52, 53, Ryder Beckman's intervenor request. 54 was Trinkus Engineering's memo dated 12/15. 55 is his resume CV for Stephen Trinkus. 56 was the sign-in sheet for the continued public hearing dated 12/19/2023. 57 Frederick Browning's intervenor request. 58 Susan Jacobson's intervenor request. 59 Holly Watson's intervenor request, which all the intervenor requests have been determined by our land use attorney to be invalid because they do not meet statutory requirement intervenor status. So I have prepared during discussion here, I have prepared a memo that had conditions, or as I'd like to say, stipulations, because subdivisions technically don't really get conditions, they're really stipulated. And there was 15 stipulated items on that memo. And Dan can tell that up if he wants. I just wanted to give this information to you. And then the other things that would have been stipulated that were discussed tonight for you to consider is that a crosswalk be installed at each driveway in the subdivision for the trail as a requirement of development in each lot. That the standard 50-foot buffer be increased to 100 feet along the shared northwestern boundary of lot 5 with residential properties, and that the subdivision plan indicate that the buffer shall include a berm and landscaping plantings when developed. And then number 18 would be that a 50-foot conservation easement be provided for the off-site historic cemetery as recommended by Jonathan Kinney's letter to Dr. Gregory Walker, dated 11/17/2002, and that SHPO review would provide an updated letter regarding the subdivision. So it would be those three additional comments from staff on this. Is there anything else, Dan, that you can think of? We are available for questions for review as well. Oh, and is it exhibit? Yes, and number 60, thank you, will be that exhibit 3, EX 300 would be the phasing plan. Thank you very much.
Okay, any questions, any additional questions by the commission? Okay, I just want to state one thing. We got a lot of information in this memo. And as much as nobody wants to see this extended, I think if we don't, if it's not extended, the commission will have to make a determination without answering these questions. I think if we don't answer these questions and look at this thoroughly and we don't get information from our town engineer, I think this application could be appealed and based on this information. I think we need to address and look at this seriously. So I would ask the applicant, and I know that we're
Possibly in a possibility to change.
right. I know that I really would like to see this extended. I know we all want it to end, but really, I think we have to do our job and make sure that everything in here is valid or invalid or addressed. This is a lot of information. I know it came in late, but they have the right to submit the information during the public hearing, and that's when they did it. So,
Tuesday, again, the applicant would have to do this. We do not have a meeting set for Tuesday, January 16th, because it is the day after Martin Luther King Day, so. If the majority of items have already been looked at, it's really focusing on this. Then, the end of your calendar standpoint, 16th works. And that reminder. But the applicant has to concede to continuing the public.
they have to ask, they have to request it.
Before, and we have a minute to discuss.
Yes.
All right. Before we do, I just want to make sure I'm clear. You have committed to holding it on that date. There's no other factors involved that are going to suggest that you can't establish a quorum or something's going to happen, and it would not happen on that day.
Well, that's we would ask here.
And actually, we all will have to be here or listen to the table and whatever. Yes.
Are you available on the 16th of January? You're not.
You're not. A quorum is 3.
But there's a.
You need to work with
You need to have 4 for the waivers. Yes.
Well, then, you know what, I'll see if I can change my meeting.
Would you be available? Our regular night meeting that month is the 23rd. I think it is the 23rd, right? Can you check?
So is that?
It's a Tuesday, the 23rd. It's the following.
Wednesday the 23rd. That would make my life easier.
Could we do an alternate special meeting on the 24th instead on a Wednesday? Does that work for you?
Assuming that.
What?
I don't know. Assuming I could be.
Do you not have any dates right now?
I'm assuming I could, I don't.
The only problem with when you continue a public hearing, we have to set the date for it right now. It has to be.
That's a good one. Extension. I just.
If whatever would that you had, is there a possibility you could change it and be able to be on that date if it was Wednesday the 24th?
What time of day we talking?
This same, probably an evening meeting, I would imagine. Special meeting Wednesday. Or we want to do it earlier, do Wednesday before that. Could you do the week before? Or could you?
Let's
really keep it down.
let's try and do 20.
Okay.
So the answer to the question is, January 24th, you'll establish a quorum and have a meeting if we decide to allow for an extension.
Right.
And the next,
Special meeting.
And we will have to get all the answers for us and you on this question. And then I also would ask that you address all of the items that we talked about
okay,
as well.
and what is the, if I can ask this question, perhaps I cannot. What is the nature or the conduct of this next meeting? Is it the exact same Is public
Okay.
comment continued?
The public comment is required to continue, okay, because it's a public hearing. It would be a public hearing, you can't say, no, you can't speak. Okay, the intent is to address this letter. And we would like to get our engineer to review this letter, is that right?
Yes, but I do have a question. So, you and I are looking at each other because we have already committed to 4 applications at the January meeting, which is the 23rd. We can't lump those people and do, we possibly can't do that meeting and do the next meeting, that just would be insane. So if we were only going to address this particular application, we would ask that it be either maybe the week before, what do you think, Dan, or not? What do you want to do?
Special meeting?
Yeah.
It would be a special meeting.
Depending on the forum.
Yeah, it's the only thing is we need a quorum. And Ella, we haven't asked her. If
Oh,
she's-
Ella could make the quorum for, I keep forgetting, because she's here.
Yeah, she's not.
You can unmute yourself.
Ella,
Yeah,
you unmute.
I'm here. I'm here. What?
Are you available? We did a meeting on this 16th, on January 16th.
January
Or second.
16th. I am available for a meeting that evening. Yes.
Okay. Good. Good.
Okay,
This
so
would be the 16th.
So I guess it should be to understand, on Tuesday, we had Tuesday, January 16th meeting. As a special meeting, we're still having a meeting on the 23rd. I'm just telling you that.
Oh, so we're gonna have 2 meetings.
Because we've already committed the public hearings for that.
All right.
We're gonna discuss now that we understand that it can happen and what date it would happen and the conduct of it.
But I think it would only be this matter on that agenda, because we're hoping the other meeting, the other item on the agenda tonight has to be 65 days and now, so you're excited about that.
Would you?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Doesn't.
Okay.
How long would you be available if the meeting was at 16 at 6 p.m.?
6 p.m. Yes, I should be able to make that.
As if you'd be available on the regular day too, on the 23rd?
Yes.
Okay,
That's for the regular meeting now. Sorry.
Yes, this is true. All right.
Madam Chairwoman, we deliberated, and as the applicant, we decided that we do not want to extend this hearing any longer. We've been at this since November of 2021. We've had the same audience and the same responses to the responses for that time. In the matter of the engineer opinion that was presented for the first time this evening, we're comfortable that between our engineering solution and the city engineer's review of our work, that we have a position that meets the demands of what this subdivision plan requires. And so we'd like to close the hearing.
So I just. So what, just clarify for me, whether the applicant and is asking for the commission is they are not granting you an additional time. So we are forced to close the public hearing for December 26th, which is now really, because I don't think there's really enough time this week with the holidays and then Tuesday to do a meeting. So you would have, if you close the public hearing, you have 65 days to make a decision, but there's no, but you should tell, you don't get to take any new testimony
Yeah,
yet.
you have substantive testimony, I mean,
But at least we can look at this. I mean, I haven't really been able to look at it.
You know,
well, it's been submitted, we
Yeah.
can look at it.
Yeah,
but,
that's about it. Yeah, I get that.
and so what this also means is the waivers, again, there would be 3 waiver requests. Out of the 5 of you, it needs to be a vote of, if you decide to close a public hearing, you don't have to make a decision tonight, but if you do make a decision tonight, waivers need to come first. You have to consider 3 waiver requests first. It is a 4 votes are required for the majority of board as well. City members, okay, or waivers, but that's up to your decision. But once we close the public hearing, just so you know, discussion with staff, except for technical things of, you know, dates in the file and things like that, you cannot discuss this with us anymore because we are the decision now. You know, to close the public hearing, you can't discuss with each other unless it's on the record at the meeting. When you
Technical information from our town engineer, could he review that?
you can't provide any additional input unless the public hearing is closed.
That's technical information.
Well, I mean, there's kind of the narrow technical information, yes, this complies with X, Y, Z. Their calculations are correct. But if you're asking the city engineer to look at that and to subjectively respond to things, I think that the scope of what you could take as additional information after the hearing.
Could he answer the information about like the drainage questions and things like that?
Only on a very limited basis.
I think this puts us in a really difficult situation because if we don't get the answers and we don't review this, then, you know, it'd be a few.
We're only allowed to approve this as a subject, so we can't really, nothing, even though there's things that we might like about, like, there's nothing else we can do.
Right, but if, you know, some of these things do address the subdivision, and that's what, I mean, me personally, I didn't have enough time to review this and understand it. And it's
I think you're kind of a little bit out of loss because receiving this so late, which is, you know, we just received it tonight. We did not have an opportunity to show it to our city engineer to comment. So you really can't get into doing a review for them. That's improper. It's the public hearing be closed. So it's really you looking at it and reading it and then balancing back what you've heard from the engineer here tonight, and then you've known our city engineer reviewed it. He has, you know, his comments about a couple of things that need to be addressed, and then this last, his last comment was about a, I can read that one. I forgot Ryan's last memo here, which was just to me, number 48. He felt that all actions are really good at this picture. Anything? Hold on. So Brian, email to me was dated Friday, December 15th. Good afternoon, Deanna. I have reviewed the responses to my comments and the comments below and find them satisfactory with one exception. I would recommend a condition acknowledging that should the hydraulic sizing for the Bevo arches result in the need for arches larger than what are shown on the plans, an area of wetland disturbance needs to increase, that a permit revision would be required. Typically, the hydraulic sizing would take place prior to the structural design. It is worth noting that the size of the arches appear to be adequate and they would need to increase, but the final calculations will determine that prior to construction. Please let me know if you need anything else. So he, and I did speak with him on, well, I had sent him, but he said, low, it was 2 questions that I had for him regarding my member, and he said that they were had been addressed, which was, at a minimum, sheet 213 and 302 must include the reconfigured highway, the temporary roundabout, and they did show that label that he said it was satisfactory. And that all 5 pages show the new roadway to be constructed, relative to the proposed highway, state road with highway ramp access is subject to, federal highway administration, and they acknowledged that and did that. And those were comments that Brian wanted included, so, so I don't know how it makes you feel, but Brian, his last, email to me on Friday was all comments except for potentially the hydraulic study on that bridge or that arch, and that could happen later. We did not have a concern, so.
What is the
Reading the speaker. Okay, so this is, he's asking the adopted date of voting. This is the calendar, as far as the time frame here. So the public hearing has to close by December 26th. So if we close it tonight, then the 65 days to make a decision after December 26th is February 22nd, 2024. So people in theory could just ponder it for 65 days and not make a decision until February meeting.
We could take the time to review this. We could take the time to review all the additional information that was added. That's. So we can close it tonight and then just consider the information.
So if that is the case, and you're not holding a special meeting, what would happen is, it would go on the agenda as, old business to, on the January and February meeting. Oh, yeah, because when it's February's date, February has to ask you that. So we'd have to, if you did not make it.
February scheduled meeting is the 27th.
The 27th of February, so it would have to be made either in the January meeting or a special meeting in February. Sorry, meeting in February's late, but it would just go on the agenda for decision only on an application at that point. It did not be public hearing closed.
Okay.
It would be 65 days from now, not December 26th.
No, it's 65 days from, it would be 65 days close to public hearing tonight, which is how I came up with that. We came up based on tonight. Closing it to the 220. Dan, do you want to check that number? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Well, I don't, so if you close the public hearing, I can't say anything else. So if you have any questions, I would say when you get to a point that you want to make a decision, should you make a favorable decision on it, it would be looking at my memo number 3 and adding the additional 3 items that I read up, the items 16, 17, 18 that I read out loud, and they would be stipulated and maybe in the minutes clearly if you needed to refer to those.
I would like to ask the applicant a question before we close this, and that is the open space. You're unwilling to change it. Is that correct?
Madam Chairwoman, the answer to your question is no, just to be direct. However, what we want but what I want you to understand is that in addition to those currently designated open area acres, there's a 7,000-foot linear trail that's intentionally allowing for open recreation and enjoyment of the space. That's alongside the arterial road.
Right, that's part of the requirement to have sidewalk.
Understood, but the distinction, and you may feel a distinction without a difference, but the distinction is it is made and intended specifically for outdoor recreation. And if I may, when we first started this conversation back in November of 2021, a comment was made on the very first article at that time that was posted in One Day that said, I hope when they build this next business, pull it up and create it as evidence if necessary, but I hope that when they create this next industrial park, they create space for us to safely walk and move about in the industrial park, because that currently doesn't exist in Israelite Park. Argue right or wrong by that comment, but it caught my attention, and that is why we have purposefully gone down this path.
Require sidewalks on both sides of the road.
I'm
Okay,
just-
I just, and one last thing. You've been doing this since 2021. We've been doing this since 10/17/23. So we have not been involved with this before that. So having this information is important to us. So.
Right, understood.
Okay. Commissioner Lewis? Would you like to close the meeting? Okay, go ahead, comments.
James Porto, I would like to just mention that I missed the first public meeting last month. And I just want to clarify that I did video it, or I watched the video 2 times actually. And I have investigated the regulations. But I do find that this is probably a good decision on my part anyway, as far as and I certainly understand the responsibility of this committee, and I do investigate some of the new information here. Thank you.
We have to close.
We have to close this
One more chance?
Yeah, one more chance.
One more chance. Would you like to give us an extension that? My suggestion is that we do that, because if we just consider this without the ability to go back and forth. No, okay, very good.
Sorry.
We need to hear the motion again. Continue the vote to close the public hearing.
Make the motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second that motion, this is Jason.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Talk about procedure. Right.
If you guys could move quickly, because we have the rest of our agenda to do.
I just want to see how. Thank you.
We have more things on the agenda, so you're not staying for the rest of the meeting.
Oh, did someone fall? Oh, it's not awful.
Okay.
Are we excited about? That's the 10,
Okay,
it
ready?
was 10:29, right?
Okay, site development plan 1049, general. Myrtle Drive.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Here.
So people are.
Zero, drive, site plan review. Site plan review for land disturbance activities associated with preparation of a commercial pad site for future development application of CMEP Inc. property, CME Petrowski. Assessor map, 41, lot 1, lots 5, 5.1, 5.2, 5.RD, zone P received on 10/17 tables 11, 21, 23.
Good evening. My name is David McKay with Boundaries LLC, here on behalf of the property owner and applicant. Good evening. My name is David McKay with Boundaries LLC, here on behalf of the property owner, Sammy Petrowski, and the applicant, Sammy P. Inc. We went through the plans at our last meeting and just wanted to add a few pieces of information that have developed since then. We did receive approval of the Norwich Inland Wetlands Water Courses and Conservation Commission on December 7th. So that step has been completed. One of the comments we had received from staff that we addressed with our current revision plans up in, I don't know, bring that up.
From this memo, the CCP memo?
Yes, yeah, regarding the location of the access driveway for our proposed 1.4 acre pad site. Was recommended to relocate that from Myrtle Drive to the Dominican Drive entrance, so all of our site traffic would be accessing the site from Dominican Drive in front of the FedEx facility. We have relocated the plans and relocated the driveway and resubmitted those for file. And then the final item is just an item I wanted to clarify. I spoke at the last meeting regarding hours of operation. Our proposal I indicated was Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The applicant is also requesting Saturday hours for earthwork from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. But other than that, no changes have been made to our application since the last meeting.
So Dan had a memo that we did for this application back in November 6th, 2023. We were waiting past conditions, recommended conditions on this application. The only thing we were waiting for was the approval at that point. So if you have the memo when it's up on the board right now, if you want to get to number 13, scroll it down. There is nothing about the hours of operation, I think, in this condition.
Yeah.
So I think that should be stipulated on here as well. So the applicant said, what were the hours again? If you can tell me again.
We're requesting Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. with only earthwork occurring on Saturdays, no material processing.
Is processing happening all the way till 7 p.m. on Monday through Friday?
That's the request to be able to complete the project as quickly as possible.
Is there any questions about that material processing? Is that mechanical equipment?
Yes, it would be rock crushing. For
That's what I'm saying.
That's really loud.
Yeah, the concern is that it is next to, you know, the.
Well, it's in the residential, it's right between two apartment complexes.
Yeah, but they're allowed in the business park.
I know,
like
but
this,
it's-
just so.
Okay.
And here's St. Jude in relation to this.
It's right next to our project.
That's not good.
So I think those hours are a little extensive for that rock crushing portion of it, because it'll be in the housing facility.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't have the ordinance of the city up right now to look. I could try to look online really quickly, because I know that there is some ordinances regarding, not necessarily noise really, but it's about earth removal. I think there may be some hours in it. Did Rich send that to you? I thought he did.
I did look at that before the meeting. The hours that are stipulated are no material processing from 7 PM to 7 AM. So from that perspective, it would comply with the hours of operation. Understanding that they are right next door, I don't think it'd be unreasonable if you put a condition on it. Yeah.
I think that 5 PM.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and 8 to 12 on Saturdays, no rock crushing at that. Do you feel comfortable with that? Okay, so Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, 8 to, and then, no rock crushing. On Saturday.
So how long will that go?
We're expecting that construction of the project in its entirety would be about 1.5 years.
A little bit longer now that they have 2 hours cut short, or. But I think that from proximity to elderly people, I think that's reasonable. So I would guess if this is a site development and there is not a public hearing, you don't need to close a public hearing to make a decision on if there is waivers or anything like that requested. So
we did ask actually for a waiver of a couple of the application requirements, not from regulations, but the application did require elevation drawings of buildings and signs. And at this time, we don't have.
There is not, so it's fine. Yeah. So
It's already approved.
So
Well, that was just.
no, it was tabled. It was tabled.
So I would just ask to waive the reading of the bullet points in my memo.
Yeah.
You don't. And we'll provide them to the clerk and it will be in the approval letter.
It's 1, 2,
motion to
3,
approve.
4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 conditions that were on the memo on item number 30. Dan's comments on item number 13, an additional requirement that the operation is Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, and Saturdays 8 to 12, with no crushing on Saturdays.
Make it a little later. I mean, 8 to, I know that. But this is next to an assisted living project. I don't know, just, I know.
I just think if you squish the time, you're gonna elongate.
I know. All right,
You drive up costs too, if they shape up, running, men on site.
all right, so, all right, 7 o'clock to 5.
The early risers.
Yes. We're looking for a motion.
If someone does make a motion to approve, the reason would be if it conforms to section 5.4.
Yes.
And with those with Dan's conditions and the extra hours. Motion, anyone?
Motion to accept with.
Not accepted.
Approved.
Motion to approve with 514 and Dan's items and the shifting of hours of operation. Anything else?
Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, and no rock crushing 8 AM to 12 PM Saturday.
Everybody, that was it. You were so made the motion, who made the second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I just want to make sure team made the motion and seconded by Jim Porto.
Great.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay, good.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you for waiting.
It was just bad timing on this.
Yeah,
That's. I think. Like, you know what, that's funny, they're back, like.
This whole
Part out and I don't.
all right, come on. All right, so the extension request is for. Okay, extension request for a special permit 18-8 and site plan 1042 for Tail Mill project, and we'll
Okay, so let me explain the two things to you, okay? So these both came up for different reasons, so Hale Mill.
Ian's just saying Brandon.
Okay, so Brandon, Hanfield is on for the Hale Mill, so the Hale Mill has submitted an application, they're coming back with modification, which will be their second modification. Next month, it's a do some, is in the parking area where there was gonna be, you were here before with the Hale Mill, there was, like a tennis court, some other things at the playground, they're not gonna end up putting that in, they wanna extend the parking there. And where there was a retaining wall, they wanna regrade that, so it's less disturbance in the floodplain and that work, so they're coming back for a modification, but in the meanwhile, their approval is expiring, so it was approved on 12/18/2018, and it actually officially, I guess you would say, expired 12/18/2023, but it really doesn't expire unless the commission files something on the waiver to really make it expire, but it's 12/18/2023, which happened to be before yesterday.
Just to make it retroactive.
So, yeah, but anyways, they're asking for a request, for additional time, so an additional 5 years would bring them to 12/18/2028, but what's gonna happen is they're going back for modification anyway, so this was really just to get them through to get to their application. So, and this is there was 2 application numbers, one of them was, special permit 1808, which was modified to 1808A, and site development plan, 1042, which was 1042A, which when they came back, so, Brandon, do you have any comments on this, 5 years? Which is kind of moot because it's gonna get a new approval date.
Yeah, I think you covered it. Sorry, Brandon Hanfield with Yannick River Consultants. The only thing that happened in our modifications previously, you held the original approval date and didn't extend it at those points. We just wanted the extension to be granted so that if there is a modification here, that would already be taken care of. So either way works for us, but we do need an extension of time now to get us to the meeting where you review our modifications, and at that time you can set a new date, or if you grant the 5-year time extension, you can honor that extension in the next modification application. So either one works, but we do need the extra time to continue the work.
Because the reality is it will be done by 12/18/2028 anyways, because they're already doing some of the work there now.
Correct. They've already done considerable amount of site work that I witnessed. It stalled a little while ago, but I think they're still working on some of the building. There's a lot of moving parts with this project, so but they are working diligently to complete it.
So we'll need a motion to approve an extension for both those numbers, 1808 and 1042.
For 5 years?
For to bring it up to 12/18/2028, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the extension request for the Hale Mill Hotel project, SP 1808 and SDP 1042 until 12/18/2028.
Is there a second?
This is Ella, I'll second.
Okay, so Jason made it out. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have one more that was not on here, and I apologize. This one came up a little trickier. So this is 539 Norwich Avenue. 539 Norwich Avenue is, if you know where the Panema Mill is, and then the lot is, and then there's the Panema Mill South, which was approved. Then there's the building just south of that, which is more of a industrial uses that are there. Well, the front building back in 2014 was March 18th, 2014 was approved by the commission. A request was for 11 apartments there. They got 8 apartments in that building approved by the commission. They, at the time, there's a whole bunch of, it's very difficult to kind of figure out what happened, but they ended up getting 4 units permitted. They got building and zoning permits for 4 of the 8 units permitted. But they never finished, they never had any inspections, they never had COs. Well, there was a complaint and we found that there was 9 units being occupied and none are CO, only 8 were approved. They have now, at least in the short term, because people are housed there, we don't want to put people on the street, at least we got to beat the fire code to make sure that the fire code is being addressed. However, they have to come back because what they that what they built out is not what's there, you know, and they would like to have it, and so they have to come back even just to come to the commission for anything, and they can discuss that, but in the meanwhile, our regulations allow for an extension of an approval. It does not state it has to, the extension request has to happen before it's expired, so let me just go over the dates. So March 18th, 2014, it was approved. It would have in theory been expired March 18th, 2019. 5 years would have been, will be March 18th, 2024, but there's not enough time between now and March 18th of 2024 to get a full application and get those units legal. So I'm recommending making it a 6-year approval, which would bring them from March 18th, 2025, so that we can have them resolve the violations and come back to the commission. But right, does that make sense to you? So instead, they expired in 2019, and I would say they need to grant them from 2019 a 6-year approval, which would bring them to March 18th, 2025, because a 5-year is only going to give us 2 months to get them in here. I think we need more than that, but that was a lot.
With everything else.
Yeah, and everything else going on, I think. So if you don't want to do 5 years, we want them back because we want to resolve this. So if you don't want to do it 2025, but you want to do 5 years and 6 months and get them back in you know, by September 18th, 2024 or something like that. I don't know. Sometime in 2024 is probably good too, just.
It's just 6 years.
Make 6 years, okay. So we're asking for a 6-year extension from the expiration date of 3/18/2019 to bring us to 3/18/2025. But I think there needs to be a stipulation in here that the time is being granted for them to come in and legalize the illegal department.
Yes.
And that the expectation is that they will be in maybe before the January, whatever set of date, September 2024, that something they should have an application filed.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's fair?
That's good. All right, everybody?
Dan? Yeah.
You want them to at least be inspected by a certain date?
Well, they've been inspected. The problem isn't being inspected. The problem is they need to get legalized to the commission first, and then 4 of them, well, I guess I should back up. So if the 4 that they got permits for, and that came under the original approval, you know, because it was approval for 8, they have to rip out some of the walls, they need to do some things to show the building officials that were never inspected, that those units comply with the floor plan, and that was everything submitted. Then they might allow them to just go ahead and occupy the 4, get a CO on those 4 units, and the others, we want them not to have illegal units there, but what's gonna happen is, if you bump everybody out, the city is responsible for the rehousing fees, and it gets kind of,
It's terrible.
yeah, it gets crazy, even so, we've already, the unit, the
So
9.
the owner, it can be responsible for that.
Well, so, yes, they are.
You get chased.
Yes.
Hey, it can make more money.
Yeah.
But there, well, the thing is, the owner of the building is now. So Kenema is, so they took it over, not doing their research to buy, they're buying the building for that connector. Remember how they needed the connector against the back, so they were going back and forth to the leasing and, you know, getting an easement. And it was gonna cost as much to get the easement as just buying the property, so they bought it. Kind of not, what they sight unseen, but it was kind of like, oh, whatever, didn't really do their research on the apartment. So the 9th unit, which is really unsafe, is being, we're giving them until the beginning of January because we don't want to move for people by Christmas. It's code compliant as far as being safe for someone right now to live in. But it doesn't, it's an odd setup, and the building official partners don't like, that would never be approved the way it is, so. They are gonna get relocated into the lot. That's the intention of that 1 unit. The other 8 units, unfortunately, we're gonna be going through trying to get them dealing with this violation, but we want to drag them in here to legalize it. So it's a little bit of, you know, pulling them in here. We could move that date earlier, like to June, by getting them in June.
Then we do it soon.
Yeah. So, well, Jim, why don't we say get them in an application by April? So I would say give them an extension. Is that fair to give them the extension, Attorney Roberts, but with the condition that they have an application filed before then?
is there any issues with that? I mean, they're lucky they're getting an extension as far as that. So, okay, so I'm gonna state it again. So the extension would be from 3/18/2019 to give them a 6-year extension to March 18th, 2025, with the expectation that the application is filed by April 2024 to legalize the units.
And what if they don't do that?
So,
Cause that could,
well, the thing is then, or we need to evict, I mean, that's the problem, it's like.
you said that, so who bought it? The people who are
Yeah,
dealing.
yeah, you deal with different people.
One he bought it from Mr. Breaker, who owned it before.
Okay, so do they have units that are available?
You need to rent to other people right now?
At the other property that.
Not all of them, but they're going to try to, but of course, if people want to stay where they're at, even though it's illegal, it's, you know.
All right,
There's an agency that's actually housing someone there without contacting the city, who's paying for a person to live there without realizing that's an illegal unit, so they need to be indicated that they're paying dollars to put someone in a building that's it.
very confusing.
It's very frustrating, this one happened Friday. So, I mean, do you wanna have an application? I'm just afraid if we say that they apply, we give them to 2025, they're gonna take all the way to the day before.
Okay, so.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't want to go all the way to 2025. I think they're gonna try to push that deadline. And we're serious about them getting their paperwork in so we can legalize those units. No, I wouldn't go out to 2025.
So how about that we give them extension, we could give them the extension of 5 years to bring them to March 18th, 2024. And with the stipulation, they need to get their application in by then, that's still 3 months away. Because that's almost 3 months, so, okay, so give them the extension only to March 18th.
Yeah.
And let them come in and let, and if for some reason that doesn't work for them, let them come and grovel about why it didn't work. All right, so let's go 5-year extension to March 18th, 2024.
So Ella, are you making that motion?
Yes, I'll make that motion to grant the extension to March 18th, 2024.
Yeah, also.
All in favor?
Aye.
So back before that are already there, are they still at occupy? Before that were.
Are they able to occupy the floor?
Before that were already legal.
Well, we need to do inspections of all, there's no inspections ever done. So, and then everything, the walls are all closed up, so they need to basically, when they deconstruct that 19, the building officials are gonna be able to see how the work was done. So there's a helpful of deconstructing the 1 unit to be able to tell. It's a mess, it's a big mess. So,
Indiana?
yeah.
Sorry, so grant 5-year extension to 18. So the application.
Forget about the application, they just only have to for your extension to March 18th.
And who seconded it?
It was Ella, Jen, 107. Okay, so as far as bond releases and requests, none right now. Other businesses, we're not gonna go into executive session with the pending litigation right now, I have nothing new to update. I can say it on the record, I have a court date on one project which was approved by the commission. I think I reported to you a while ago, Victoria Landing. We're holding a bond for the public access that they never built out and they want it back. And so we have a court date of January 2nd on that. And then any other matters I don't have updated right now at this time. Staff report, Dan, do you want to go over this one?
We wrote and submitted a CIF 2030 planning grant application for $250,000 for a planning study and environmental cleanup. 150,000 for environmental cleanup and 100,000 for the planning study, and that was submitted last week. We won't hear until March, April time.
So who owns the property?
That's owned by Carl Costanzo. Okay. He owns the property, and he has a potential interested developer. But we got them on board, at least the potential developer, to be open-minded about what a public
Yes,
process
and it'll
would
be a
entail.
public visioning process.
So what, you know, the community might want to see there, what's economically viable, kind of market study, and environmental.
It will probably all fall into place once. Preston, yeah.
I know we asked them a lot of questions, the consultant, if they get hired, about what's happening in Preston, whether walk, because that's gonna kind of come out. Right, and to go along with that grant, which is something else I wanted to say, the city also submitted a grant application. For the marina area for the waterfront for 11 million.
11.7.
$11.7 million, CIF grant, so. The docks are very, very expensive, that's the huge
For
part.
construction,
To install, yeah, new docks, because they're really poor
engineering.
So that's, the docks are a huge thing, and there's other amenities as well. And then the last thing, just really quickly, is our budget. I need to have that prepared. I'm working on it right now, and I'm going to be putting in $20,000 request for consultant services to help with the rewrite of the zoning regulations because of the POCD adoption.
Yeah.
So I think it's, you know, well, it's probably probably not enough, but there's other requests, like, you know, we need, one of our vehicles is failing, so unfortunately. I don't know why it's, and we're gonna complain on the record, why it's something we have to ask for in our department budget, when it should be a fleet maintenance thing.
Yeah.
Asking for like what vehicles need to be replaced, but I think with asking for the replacement of a vehicle, it's gonna kind of do this with the zoning, so I'll make that argument though, that the vehicles has nothing to do with the planning, it's just the fact that they're efficient. Need they all, to be honest with you, all the vehicles need to be replaced, but we're starting with one, because we try to be responsible, how we ask for things, but 20,000 is a start for the zoning regs, I think that would be good.
Well, you can start 20 this year and 20 next year.
Yeah, and that could be a good question, it's a good thing to do it too.
2 phases.
And then the last thing really quickly is our POCD implementation meetings are gonna start up again, I think the first one maybe in January.
Which we may skip.
Yeah, but this heavy.
That's too much.
So. They skip it, but we don't wanna let it fall to 3 years like when I started.
No, but
When I
maybe,
started
maybe
doing
change.
it, it was every year, so I wanna make sure that we can have that. But that's it.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
No, I can't say what. 10-10 adjourn. Who said the motion? I'm sorry. It was Jason. Or who seconded it? Dean?
No, I didn't. You did. Now it's me.
Okay, whoever, Jason or Dean, you both get to. Did you say all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a lovely. Oh, okay.